Good evening, everybody. I'm just going to take a second here to make sure all the numbers and settings and all of that are where they need to be. We have quality options, games tagged properly. All right, we're ready to go. So we're back to Stellaris. Now, the previous stream was definitely a lot more chatty than sort of what I'd like to do now. Now, I mean, let's not kid ourselves, right? I am very chatty while I play games, and I'm not always necessarily great at making a lot of progress, but it was sort of a return to the playthrough, and it was a chance for me to sort of just get a feel for everything. Unfortunately, the door on our attempt to sort of offer subsidiary status to our long-standing rival sort of closed. I'm going to try and reopen that. But this is also going to be the first time we're playing since the 3.3 Libra update was released. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not 100% sure what happens to the, hey, Senior Q, I'm doing all right. I wish I had a little more done today, but getting a stream in is also doing something. So I'm hoping to do a good one, and if I have enough energy at the end, I can just maybe try and peek in a couple of extra duties. But yeah, I'm curious to see what happens with the new update. I think these minor ones have generally been, I think they do suggest that there may not be compatibility, but generally the impact has been fairly minor. Of course, there are, it's an update. Oh, actually, you know what? I'm going to quit out, because it occurred to me that if I just do resume, it just occurred to me that if I do resume, I'm not going to see the game summary of the new updates. Yeah, this will be the first I see them, Senior Q. So again, it's usually not the done thing to do it mid-game, but because they are trying to, kind of update or they're trying to speed up the pace at which these things get released. It is kind of a reality that I'm usually going to get hit by them every once in a while. So, greetings and welcome to the new Custodian patch. The 3.3 Libra update includes significant gameplay changes, making Unity a more valuable resource with many more uses. Planetary Ascension tiers are a new way to let you upgrade your core worlds, improving the effects of planetary designations and reducing planetary sprawl. The Necroids DLC now gives Megacorps their own twist on reanimators with the Permanent Employment Civic. In addition, we have included many bug fixes and smaller improvements, including a slew of graphical fixes, AI improvements, and performance optimizations, which you can find detailed in our patch notes. Saved games from previous versions may not be compatible with version 3.3. If you wish to continue your old save in version 3.2, follow the forum link below and read the thread How to Revert Stellaris to a Previous Version. So we are kind of on an Iron Man run, so I suspect I've already corrupted the... save file for those purposes, but we'll get it done. So it went from, so this is alarming. What my energy credit state is at. I'm hoping that when I unpause the game that number is going to be different. And then we also now have a massive consumer goods deficit. So certainly I'm going to have to I'm going to have to radically alter my economy if those are real numbers. Next big question for me is, no, they do not count. We're no longer superior, or we're still not superior to them. Obviously, if the numbers mess around a little bit, I might have been able to sneak in a change of status. And then we've got some unemployment. Now, I don't actually remember having 2 unemployment at the end of the last run. It could be that there were some status changes as far as some of the other some of the enslaved pops. But here's what I'm going to do. I will sort of resettle. I'm going to resettle some of these folks. Yeah, so looks like there's a bunch of... Aha! So all my administrative parks are now generating unity and trade value. Oh dear. They really stuck it to me this this patch, didn't they? Okay. We're definitely going to need to radically alter the the shape of the Empire, I think. Okay, so what's the deal with Empire side? Let's just see. Empire size is a measure of territorial expanse in your empire in the form of controlled district systems, colonies, and pops. A high empire size is a strain on your empire's administrative capacity, increasing the cost of technologies, traditions, edicts, and campaigns, and are easier to infiltrate for espionage purposes. So, like, I guess they've just gotten rid of administration altogether, but how am I supposed to keep my big empire now? Ah. Wow, okay. Yeah, this is definitely going to be very interesting to try and work my way out from the, Well, look, in fairness, Senior Q, like, I'm inheriting the empire that I built before. So I built it under a set of assumptions that no longer hold. So I don't want to I'm not quite ready to sort of get up in arms as far as the changes the patch has brought on. But it's definitely going to put me in a bit of a tough spot. So I did want to jump into the gameplay right away, but I actually think in this case I probably need to spend some time thinking about what my next few moves are going to be, because clearly upgrading the Ascension tier is going to be one way that I can that's going to be one way that I can mitigate the effects, but it's going to cost 2,000 a pop. So I can do that to 3 planets right now, and that may not be my biggest source of empire size. So the districts are my pops are my biggest source of change. You like a lot of stuff, but you really don't like how they got rid of the administrative cap. You like what they did a lot with the Unity stuff, but you feel it kind of traded one need for another. Yeah, again, I'm just looking at it now, so the lens that I'm going to be looking at this is coming from a save that is already, that's already in progress. Man, I don't quite get why these, so this is just going to hammer my consumer goods for sure, but I don't get why they're unemployed. Okay, I'm going to just do one really quick thing here. I'm going to let it go over for a day just to see if the AI does anything. Yeah, okay, so that unemployment's dealt with. Techris Link has leveraged their council powers to declare the resolution, buzzword standardization, an emergency measure. How do I feel about that? I apparently was in favor of it, so we'll carry on there. Hi, Navalian. So I will, I'll get a couple of details out of the way. So first of all, it's always important to disclose I've been given a copy of Stellaris as well as most of the DLC that I'm playing. The only exceptions to that are the Plantoids and the Humanoids DLC, which I bought on my own. I was given those given the keys except for those two from Paradox for promotional purposes. Now that's not going to be affecting my views on the patches. The patch is free, incidentally, so that's also kind of a nice way of not needing to worry too much about disclosure and such. But I do have a bad habit. If I get talking on one subject too early, I tend to neglect that, so please keep that in mind. I also wanted to say, I will confess I was quite disappointed that talking about Ukraine kind of killed the chat, quite literally to 0 viewers for the rest of the broadcast. So I'm sorry to bring it up again, but I think it's probably, I'll mention two things. Number one, the link that I provided on Friday has been replaced, but it is still possible to directly support the Department of Defense in Ukraine, and if people want that link, I will try and find the new one as quickly as I can. But the other thing is that one of the things I'm trying to do right now is vassalize the Lox Ungrakva Royal States. And it's obviously a war game, and I don't want to make a big deal, because like I sometimes understand that, well, I mean, like, it's the revealed preferences. I'm not happy that that's the state of the stream, and I'm pretty disappointed, to be completely frank. But like, it's kind of clear that that's something that people don't want to see. So I don't necessarily want to make the stream all about that. But it's a little unseemly to like just speak kind of casually about annexing a neighbor in the current context, and I kind of feel like that's always going to be a little bit of trouble that you have whenever you're playing a war game. So just with that in mind, I'll just have to acknowledge sort of the social awkwardness around it. Clearly, I am not trying to say anything by it, and the very malevolent sort of, we're just going to take these people over sort of statement is, very cartoonishly evil, and the sort of thing that is said inside of the context of a science fiction video game. But clearly, things that I would say under normal circumstances take on a certain coloring in the current environment, which are a little tricky to handle. And I think it's better for me to just say, I got to figure a way of properly navigating this stuff. I will probably screw it up, but I think it's probably, there's some value in just saying that, like, what's going on in the real world has unfortunate parallels inside of the game, or the game has unfortunate parallels to real life events, and I don't want it to come off as callous or ignoring. So yeah, it's a good question, Senior Q. I don't know. I mean, the AI seems to be pretty good at repairing its economy, so I suspect that they'll probably be in a better state. Like I have a feeling they'll dig themselves out of that hole faster than I will. But yeah, if the galaxy goes bankrupt, that's not necessarily bad for me. Okay, I'm going to take a quick second here and take a look at the debris just to see if there's... Okay, so do I have any science ships on that? I've got an idle construction ship. Okay, so the idle ships are idle for a reason. Yeah, I mean, I don't mind trying to go back to the old save. The thing is that I think if it becomes unrecoverable, like I'm gonna make a good try of it. And so if I go back to the old patch, all of the changes that I've incorporated to try and make this work are probably gonna not work very well with the old patch. So, I'm totally fine giving it a shot. But I have a feeling that this is it. I have a feeling this is going to be the point where, this playthrough lives or dies. Honestly, though, it's not insurmountable. We're in a bit of trouble as far as the consumer goods are concerned, and I'm genuinely unsure. So we gotta, we just gotta see what the real numbers for this are, because these get updated. Montura, I'm just gonna purge that. I get that. I know that it's really tough to you don't want people to take themselves too serious on it, but I really don't like the idea. Oh, sorry, I did that too long. So let me that should have been for 0 seconds, not... Oh, for Christ's sake. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm screwing this up. So here's the thing. I don't want to be too heavy-handed on this stuff, but maybe maybe not comparing it to a video game, and particularly with a Kappa face. I think that to me is just a little too far on the insensitive side. So I apologize if you feel that that's unfair, but I am sort of responsible for the tone, and I just, for me, it's a little. I think that's a little too far on the. I think that's just a little too far over the trivializing line. I hope you appreciate the context on that. That was not intended to be a 10-minute timeout. You're happy to continue to participate, but I've kind of learned how quickly chat can get out of hand. So I hope you appreciate the spirit in which that was done. Okay. I'm trying to figure out what I need to do with my science ship here. So I don't really have anything in the way of anomalies to check out. There are still parts of the galaxy that I haven't really explored yet. But I think the time has come. So I definitely have a big technical debt, which is going to get even worse with the new changes. So I'm gonna go. I think I need to start supplementing some of my research, and I suspect it'll be the capital world that's best for. Oh, no, apparently not. Oh, hang on, sorry. Kirox's private stash is the... Okay. So, yeah, Kirox's private stash is far and away the most productive research center. Yeah, I appreciate it. Like, usually when something like that happens, it's like I get a all capital letters private message explaining what a jackass I am. Like, maybe I am, but it's a tough one. So I appreciate you being good about it. Curious to see how you deal with the new update. I think I can recover this, but it probably wouldn't be as fun. Also, my traditions now cost 100% more, along with tech being 50% more. Yeah, I mean, it's miserable overall. But here's the big thing for me. Like, it's definitely not the first time I've had a patch come in partway through. And like just completely upend the plan. So I think this might have been back in Apocalypse. I'm trying to remember exactly which one it was, but like basically there was a change which increased the price of star bases by like 1 energy credit. But because I had so many, like going from 1 energy credit to like 2 energy credit, like effectively you're doubling the price of like these things, right? So I just had this massive hole blown into my budget. And it was miserable to like try and fix it. Like I definitely really needed to just like wrench the game around my intentions and such. But I managed it. And like one of the big things that I try and learn, and I'm bad at this for some games. Like some games I have a big setback and I'm like, what's the damn point? And like just, and just kind of like move on. But generally I tend to find games that I like really stick with. Like I learn a lot more when I get clobbered, or like when I'm facing something that I feel is really unfair. Like it's a really, really hard line to draw, right? Because I couldn't really give you a set of rules. Like, so like let's say, a consortium of designers like all sat down and said, you are the chosen one, right? Like we've watched your playthroughs, and like every single time you've played a game, like you caught the zeitgeist, like you know exactly what the players want. So we want to know what the line is for you in terms of like where you give up and like never play the game again, and where you're like engaged and you try and solve the problem. And like they could promise me anything, and I would genuinely not be able to answer that question. You know, I like some games, other games I will run into a setback, and I'm just like, there is no point in going on. I actually tend to find for older games I hit that point quite often, but I think it's because older games tend to be a little bit less polished, and so, you know, the sign of one frustration is usually a sign that there's going to be a string of those frustrations. You know, I've been with Stellaris for a few years. Admittedly, there's a bit of a break in between, so I'm still sort of trying to recover from my peak. But, you know, this is a game where, you know, as the patch goes by, it's like, okay, so now I'm going to learn something. Or actually, Industries of Titan is a great example of this, where like I have a bunch of stuff that I take advantage of, and then they patch it out. So then I just find a whole bunch of other evil capitalist things for me to do to make my employees miserable and like never paid. And in that case, that's kind of some of the fun, because that game's being made as, you know, as the updates keep coming in. This game obviously sort of lives on its ability to continue producing new DLC that you know, that keep people engaged enough to buy it. But it's a similar idea, right? The game continues to get developed. There wasn't espionage in the game, and now there is. And it's an opportunity to just sort of see, you know, what's a way you can use this new tool, or now that you've had this crutch that you've gotten used to removed, how are you going to get around it? So, you know, in this particular case here, it's a baptism by fire for the new mechanics. I have so much infrastructure built towards generating a resource that no longer exists. But, you know, in this particular case, I also suspect I'm going to understand how empire size works a lot better now that, you know, I kind of need to overcome it. So, you know, again, like one of the biggest things for me that I would say here, previously I would have said, okay, well, now I just need to generate more administrative cap. So essentially, I'm taking some subset of my population. I'm saying, I can't use it for productive uses. I just need them to be able to mitigate the effects of my expansion. Now I'm going to say, it's like, okay, so because there doesn't seem to be some upper bound that the game is, you know, is kind of throwing at me, or at least I'm not able to modify that number, what I'm going to try and do here is find a way of tamping down the costs of the pops, because that's one of the biggest effects. And then maybe it turns out that, okay, well, there's nothing I can do about pops, so perhaps I deal with sort of the variables that I'm able to mess around with. So in this particular case here, we'll take Kirox's private stash, and I go back to the planet summary. So what's my option? Well, I can upgrade to Ascension Tier 1. Planetary designation effects, plus 25%. Good. Planetary Empire Sprawl, minus 5%. I'll actually read the specific description here. So Unity can be spent to increase the planetary ascension tier of a colony, which increases the effects of the planet's colony designation and reduces the planet's effect on Empire Sprawl. Planets can be ascended multiple times based on the number of ascension perks that you have unlocked, and increases in cost based on the cumulative number of ascension tiers in your empire. Unlocking all ascension perks increases the planetary ascension cap by an additional 4. So I kind of need to pick for the maximum effect. Now, one thing that is a little tricky about that tooltip, so when I take a look at the factors that go into empire size, so here it's saying 88 districts, 29 systems, 12 colonies, 3 branch offices, and 266 pops. So in principle, one of the things that I would want to take a look at are, what are my largest planets? Does that actually modify the pops number? So what I mean by that is, when it says the planets, when it says it reduces the planet's effect on Empire Sprawl, does that mean the number of systems? Because that can't be right. You can have multiple planets in a system. Does that mean districts and pops? Does that mean colonies? Like, there's a few different ways that you can sort of think about that. So one thing I'm actually going to do here is take a look at my planets list. I'm actually going to look for the one with the largest population, assuming that it gives me Oh, does it not? It gives me planet size. So Grunner is a candidate, but it's a shame. It's weird. It'll tell me pops in the high level details, but it doesn't seem to tell me the pops on. Oh, here we go. Okay, 17, 34, 25. Okay, so Siluria, Prime, and I'm assuming this is Kirox. Oh, no, Nadal? Yeah, so Nadal and Siluria Prime are the two largest. Now, Siluria Prime is, I believe, the one that is going to be my main farming world, so that one doesn't necessarily produce a lot of stuff that, like, sure, I'm sure at some point I will ascend it, but maybe it's not necessarily giving me as much as I would, like, maybe I don't want the effects as quickly. Nadal, on the other hand. So I am going to be changing the overall structure of this thing. So bizarre. I guess I assigned it. No, it's auto-designated. So I guess I maybe want to put this more towards science than anything. But the biggest thing I'm factoring in right now is just the number of pops, right? I wish. Wait, Nadal? Really? Sorry, I'm doubting myself. No, that's 34. Okay. It's just such a small world that I'm a bit surprised. So essentially what I'm trying to do here is experiment with I'm trying to experiment with this new empire size. So there's a couple hypotheses that I can run with. One says that when it talks about planet, it's talking about the overall effects, and I'll just write these down because I don't have my tablet with me. It's the overall effects of empire size. So I'm just going to write 88, 29, 126, 244. So if this is only going to affect planet as in like colony, then I should only see one of these numbers move. And if it winds up affecting things like populations, then I sort of know that the first ascensions that I need to do are my largest population centers. And trust me, I would genuinely love to spend the Unity on something else, right? We're so close to war games. We're so close to the great game. You know, it would have been wonderful to be able to use the Unity for that. But the fact of the matter is that we need to get our Empire Sprawl under control, especially because that's going to fund our expansion for later. It'll also tell me whether or not I want to put the extra effort into those administrative centers. So after all that setup, let's do the upgrade. Are you sure you want to upgrade Nadal to Planetary Ascension Tier 1? Okay, so it's been granted number 1. And I'm actually slightly inclined towards shifting this to a science-based world. Do we actually have administrator jobs? Or are they called something else now? Yeah, they become manager. Oh, man. That seems like a blunder, right? So it says administrator output plus 10%, but there's no administrator jobs anymore. So does this thing even give me a bonus? I don't know how I feel about that. But yeah, like I definitely see this as a better better set up as a tech world. And I'm actually going to start... Oh! I did not know we had Betharian fields. Okay, well that's a huge priority. So with that in mind, we're also going to build an energy grid. I'm going to switch out the alloy foundry for a research lab. I can't quite afford to get rid of the civilian industries, but that is going to be sort of a long-term plan. Okay. And... Well, I mean, so I can feel a little good about that, because if you notice, the numbers have gone down. It seems that the hypothesis that it's all of the factors is correct, but man, like that's a pretty big consequence for my very dispersed population. So like we went from 244 to 242. You know, there's not enough unity in the galaxy for us to be able to change that number. I wonder if there's a way to get even more detail on the empire size, because this is maybe if we mouse over on populations. Okay, so this is a 0.96 to empire size. So if we then go to Kirox's private stash and take a look at a ruler, they're a 0.9. But that's not upgraded. Okay, so maybe we do Subra 1, which is something that we built. How on earth? So apparently it didn't have any effect at all. It was always going to be 0.96. Okay, so I guess it's... Well, okay, no, hang on. We did see a change in the numbers. So, but man, that's such a minor number to see. So again, it could be about the slavery, but do I really want to blow another 2,000 to find out whether or not? Yeah, I think in this case, I'm gonna leave it be for now. I should probably hit another major population center with the upgrade, but maybe I should just batten down the hatches and get ready for extremely high unity costs. Okay, again, I'm sorry, I wanted to get a little more progress on the game today, but I clearly need to figure out how I'm going to balance my empire. So, we do have a couple of worlds which have been dedicated towards Empire Sprawl. So one of the big questions for me right now is that because we have these administrative parks, right now they are generating... Well, okay, like, I could look at the individual jobs, but like basically I'm getting... I'm converting energy and... Oh, sorry, not even. I'm converting consumer goods into unity and trade value. And it looks like I get +4. It's not a helpful game. I wish it would just give me an absolute number, but it's 8 for 28. It looks like. I mean, again, the trade value is not something that I would want to ignore, but it's maybe not the most. It's maybe not the most critical for me here. So. Wait a minute. That 8 doesn't make sense. Okay, we'll just look at the pops and see what the base for a manager is. So generates 4 after consuming 2. Now, I think there's the Autothon Monument, or Corporate Culture Site, sorry. So that's going to generate... Ah! Okay, that's interesting. So it produces 1 for each Ascension slot. Sorry, each Ascension perk. So sorry, I need to clarify terminology here. Surely when they talk about perks, they're not talking about the individual... Like, that would imply... Like 18... Oh, no, sorry. Yeah, perks, of course. The hexes. Okay. So those generate 3 on their own. So I guess the lesson out of this would be... Right now, my administrative park, as a default value, this is producing... it's kind of producing... at a default... I like thinking about the bases. So essentially, it is producing 2 Unity per consumer good, is the way to sort of think about this. In contrast, I could convert to the corporate culture site, which is going to be generating... Well, okay, so it's actually it's slightly more complicated than that again. Produces 1 for each Ascension perk that our Empire has taken. So, like, what I'm trying to figure out is, does it make sense for me to demolish all of the... Does it make sense for me to demolish all of the administrative parks? So, here's how I'm going to handle this. Clearly, we're going to need the Unity. I think I'm just going to have to build into my consumer goods. We've got 2 jobs available, so I was going to wait on the gene clinic. Yeah, well, like I was thinking maybe on the gene clinic, what I do is I replace it with the monument. I think originally what I was going to do was put a stronghold in place. But I think at this point, my administrative planets, I'm going to put down a corporate culture site to give them a multiplier. I'm probably over-invested on Unity in the current format, but I think what I will do to work around the problem, I'm going to... I'm going to focus on the construction of consumer goods. I think I'm just going to accept that we're going to have a very, very high empire sprawl for the foreseeable future. And what I need to do is make sure that my technology and traditions are... Okay, yeah. So, sorry to meander around the idea so much. Here's how I'm going to approach the changes brought on by the new update. I'm essentially going to try and barrel through the problems by overproducing. So priority number 1, I need to get my consumer goods back in the black. I may also need to augment my energy credit production because it seems to be that we're on the verge of a deficit. And if that happens, my entire empire unravels. I don't think that 5 is a credible number, though. After we get our consumer goods on track, I'm going to shift my attention from producing a lot of worlds that do high amounts of Unity. And what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to produce a lot of science. I'm going to produce a lot of produce a lot of science, produce a lot of Unity, which of course will also necessitate the production of a lot of civilian industries. So this is a very, very long-term strategy that I'm going to be employing, but it does have the nice side effect that it's going to be boosting my economy stat. And by boosting the economy stat, that means that I'll become relatively more powerful than my neighbor, and at that point I might be able to offer them subsidiary status. So may not turn out, and we are relying on some information from the game in terms of my actual kind of need for consumer goods and energy credits. But we're going to be sort of redesigning the structure of our industry to try and achieve those goals. And finally, I want to make sure that the science ship is assisting research on Kirox's private stash. I might have already had that queued up, but best to make sure. Okay, so one thing I need to wait for is this also feels a little bit faster. Did they shift the speeds? I don't know, but okay, it's as bad as it looks. Okay. We'll run ahead with what we've got right now. The energy credit one does have me a bit worried. I'm actually not quite sure how I'm going to get around it.
Debris analyzed. Now let's make some more.
Okay, so I think probably what I want to start doing is thinking about the worlds that I have available. So originally this was going to be great for a bunch of mining districts, but I've got more than enough minerals right now, and I've got shortfalls on my other resources. So we've already got the energy grid in place. I think this one I'm actually going to focus on generator districts and industrial districts for the next little while. A tubular alien entity has entered orbit of Castor Prime with no warning or explanation. It appears to be moving without engines or thrusters, gliding in complete silence through the void of space, cylinders rotating ominously. Though it has yet to display any signs of aggression, it refuses to acknowledge our hails. Our military advisors warn that it may pose a considerable threat to the inhabitants below and implore us to engage in neutralization protocols. Our scientists, however, plead that we instead learn from this remarkable piece of technology. We will study it. Okay, what have we got for... Stop! 9 months of engineering research. We are currently working on exotic gas refineries. I think we can afford the delay. Okay, so I can't just sit on my hands. What I'm going to start with is we're going to replace the mines with generator districts. Okay, so basically this is the whole industrial center right here. So that's built. Siluria Prime. Oh yes, the next goal was going to be to move food production. Okay, so we've got Siluria working on that. So that's eventually going to be transferred over to Kasloch. So, I think it's the same story. We convert to energy and industry. So one question I have right now, so this is producing 201. I'm not quite ready to sort of kneecap the production fully. How much are they individually producing? $18.2. Let's maybe move... we'll cut it in half. And we'll put them to generator districts. I guess eventually I'd like to turn this into a research world because it doesn't produce too much otherwise, but let's call it a generator world for now. Sorry, again, this is all about building towards the new patch. Okay, we're already building the energy grid, so good news there. So this counts as an industrial station, although it's been set up as a unification station. I may change that designation later, but for now, let's acknowledge it for what it is. Okay, we've done what we can here. I think eventually what's going to happen is I'm going to start moving these as I get more as I get more building slots available, I'm probably going to convert these districts into either generator districts or industrial districts. But for the time being, this is fine the way that it is. I should prepare, I suppose, for replacements for the... Actually, you know what? We probably already have... Yeah, we actually already have 8 jobs unfulfilled. So I got rid of 6. I mean, eventually this will be all agricultural work, but let's fill in the existing jobs that we have. Okay. My next goal is also going to be to construct. So I've got a spare construction ship. I can give you the rough idea. I gotta remember how this works, though. So for industrial station... No, sorry. Oh yeah, I guess industrial district... Yeah, so I was originally going to try and build like a science... like a research district, but if we go... I think it's probably best for me to go on the... I think it's probably the best for me to go on the wiki for this. You gonna head out? I'll watch the VOD or the video on Twitch. No longer feeling the vibe of a chill game session. Sorry. Yeah, no problem. I'm sorry. Sorry it didn't turn out for you, Senior Q. But definitely feel. I mean, if you want to comment on something later on too, that's fine as well. I hope you enjoy the rest of your night. Okay, let's take a look at. I was going to make some guesses, but honestly, it's probably... Oh. This is not... Yeah, 5th one being available if built over a planet with a resource deposit, but like, that's why I was looking this up. So maybe I can try Void Dwellers. Oh, for heaven's sake. Ah, dear. So what I'm trying to do here is just find that Okay. Basically, what I was trying to do is find that starting condition. So let's take my construction ship. Let's try just over Subra. So if I do build a megastructure, habitat, a habitat can... Okay, well this is a start. So a habitat can house habitat-specific buildings. If built over a planet with mineral, energy, or research deposits, special districts will be available. So I can sort of make some inferences. So for instance, a research world, if we go to Kirox's private stash, it's not going to show us what the original value was, but it's probably reasonable to say that there's going to be a research district. The mining station, probably the astro mining bay. Now, again, we got 149 minerals. I don't think I need to worry about that. Generator station, similar idea here. So I might want to consider a world where I have a small amount of energy that's being generated. Might want to build a habitat on that. But of course, that'll mean that I won't have the industrial district. So there's, you know, it's kind of a double-edged sword in that case. The more simple observation, of course, is that I also don't have the alloys for it. I think I'm going to stop expanding the fleets for the time being, just because we basically can't afford to maintain them. But for the time being, I think we will consider our expansion in light of the resources that we need. This is listed as an urban world. Probably not what I want, though. In truth, I think this is going to be... I want it to be a generator... Like, I want to list it as a generator world, but we should properly list it as a tech world. That's going to be what it does. The Vengralian Trium. You can trust the Vengralian seal of quality. Show us your wares. We offer you Trium brand bunk beds. We've already done this. Not interested. Sorry not to read the whole description, but we did deal with that event last session. Oh, actually, I really should have thought a little more carefully. So, all that effort that I put into understanding my Unity situation, that might have just gotten exploded with this observation. So when I take a look at my species, so we're authoritarian, we're fanatic militarists, we have a criminal heritage, and corporate hedonism. So pops have increased happiness and consumer goods upkeep. So population growth from entertainers +1, and servants produce an additional 5 amenities. So, oh, sorry, decadent lifestyle is the so that's not necessarily enabled. But we get population growth from entertainers. So that brings us back to the old question on our unification stations, which is, currently we've got managers, which again, it's debatable as to whether or not I'm actually getting any bonuses for administrator output. Actually, I guess I could take a look at managers and see... no. Alright. Yes, so manager jobs, unification station as a -10%. So that does help. And in fact, with that in mind, this is currently listed as an industrial station. Oh, this isn't the right one. So this is... Okay, I already listed it as a unification. But yeah, okay, so just to give you an idea of where I was thinking about this, we've got our manager, so they're currently producing a base of 4 Unity and trade value. So there's a question which would say, all right, so why don't I just switch it to a Holo Theater, in which case I still get the same base for Unity, and I get the extra growth from that because of the type of culture that I have. The answer to that, so I'm gonna stay with the status quo for the simple reason that Unity will provide me trade. So same number of jobs, manager jobs versus entertainer jobs. It would be nice to have maybe 1 Holo Theater on a world, but in this particular case here, the fact that I can get Unity as well as trade, as opposed to like Unity and growth, the trade is going to be what helps me get out of this. It's going to be what helps me get out of this this energy deficit. So we're sort of back to sitting and waiting for all my jobs to get filled. There is another thing that I'm going to try and do here, which is for the worlds that can manage, I am going to build robot assembly plants. So obviously that's going to make the pops explode, but it's going to help me get those jobs filled. There's also going to be a strain for alloys, but again, we're going to be building up our industrial base to be able to incorporate that. So I can live with it. It's not nearly enough crime. There's also the world where they kicked off my criminal enterprise. Hey, Olaf, how you doing? It's very good to see you again. So yeah, at some point I'm going to be able to claim Gleaming Shot. Oh wow, we've already got our energy credits back. I wonder if that's just because I cut off the... No, we still have the trade.
We analyzed some debris.
But we clearly have a massive consumer goods deficit, which we need to deal with. Here follows the latest newsletter for all our patrons. Sadly, nothing much has been produced in the Enclave. Most of the artists have fallen into a deep melancholy from where no inspiration can be drawn. The mood is dire, but hopeful. Creation takes time, after all. Any donations that might help the group rekindle their interest in the material plane again would be of tremendous help. So normally, like, I think this is worth it. I might be a little cautious just because I don't know exactly what's going to be happening with my energy. But in this case, 500 energy credits for 50 influence, especially given the fact that I've been scrambling to get influence for so much of this playthrough, I think that's a decent trade. So we'll pay up. And I think I don't exactly want to be putting more strains on my energy, but let's close the gap in the Empire. I might actually be willing to go out to Gurtab and Hixaxros because of their energy resources.
Complete.
The Enigmatic Cache. Despite extensive research, the Enigmatic Cache and its origin are still shrouded in mystery, though it is definitely not organic in nature. It is not entirely machine either. It appears to be preoccupied mainly with the gathering, storing, and encoding of data. Its surface is covered with hundreds of thousands of minuscule scratches and dents in which we have discovered traces of a compound that is alien to our galaxy. So nice little return on engineering investment there. And we have a global defense grid. This wasn't really giving us a whole lot. This was more about me closing the gap technologically. But the strategic value of a good defense remains as relevant today as it was to our predecessors in the far distant past. Technology does not render fortifications obsolete. It merely changes their requirements. So improved production. The added upkeep's a little bit of a worry, but I think it's more useful to me right now than terrestrial sculpting. So let's do improved production. And crystal, yeah, so just some extra stuff for us to kick around. What's in the queue?
Debris
Collective
analyzed.
waste management.
Now let's make some more.
So better diplomatic weight from economy. I kind of want to see where I am relative to everybody else on that. Yeah, so my rivals certainly have an edge on me there. But we do have an edge over everybody else, so, and more importantly, I'm okay with habitability because I have so many Gaia worlds, so I will support. So again, we're just going to say, I've got a lot of jobs here. I think in this case, I just kind of need to wait for them to get filled in. Okay. Who died? An envoy. Alright, so they should be automatically replaced. Alright, I'm a little worried about that food. I didn't think it would fall apart as quickly as that, but... Caravaneers, thieves! After a recent visit in the Orlan Memorial... Sorry. After a recent visit of the Orlan Memorial Caravan to Subra 1 habitat, it has been noticed that a number of resources are missing from the Central Reserve. It is suspected that the Orlan Memorial Caravan somehow made off with them. My precious! Minus 200.
Imagine the profit margins on this tech.
Exotic gas can be produced artificially, but it is a difficult process that requires advanced refinery equipment.
Starbase under attack.
Alright, I got a few things I gotta deal with now then. Let's go for... I don't really need the better purification hub, so let's do flat cannons for a start. Pirates sighted! Our trade route in the Lishval system is poorly protected and passes through what has largely become lawless space. An increasing number of pirate smugglers and various other criminal elements have been drawn to the system, and they now raid our shipping lanes with near impunity. So, it's not that far from the capital world, and I can send, so this thing's got 772, I believe I can just send the war form. Oh, I definitely can't. How much you want to bet that these guys have been picking the pocket of the Void Stalkers? Okay, we'll send this fleet. So, so it should be 5, 10, 20. Yeah. I think this is just going to be a problem, you know, for a while, but we're only producing 2 more destroyers for the time being, so it must be dealt with. Olaf, thank you very much for gifting that sub. And Night Valiant, enjoy your continued sub for... Oh my goodness, that's 6 months for Night Valiant. Thank you, Olaf.
I found something.
But Night Valiant, I hope you enjoy your access to the emotes. And Olaf, thank you again for being such a stalwart supporter of the stream. I know there's probably a lot that you can be spending that money on. Okay. So it's warning me that I'm out of energy credits and 60-month food in 6,718 months, but consumer goods in 11 months. And unfortunately, this is the one that I don't actually have much of a game plan for fixing. I'm probably just going to have to buy them on the open market. Greetings from New Baldorak. Things are progressing well here at our new colony. However, we have a small request. Chakmi Rada, one of our colonists, misses her family and friends on Baldorak terribly and wants to go home. Her whining is driving us crazy. If it's not too much to ask, do you think you could take her back? Very well.
Log updated.
Excellent. Hopefully this won't put too much of a strain on your resources, since you'll only be transporting a single individual. We will make the necessary arrangements at our end. I just broke the news to Chakbi, and she's spinning with joy. In fact, she's spinning out of control now. You'll have to excuse me, Raxar friends. Okay, this is for a science ship. I wish I had a way of getting this thing through the barriers. Where's the closest science ship? Baldorak Science Academy. Raxara, I've been asked to approach you on behalf of the Baldorak Science Academy. Although we Dathnak don't possess much in the way of technology, we are certainly capable of higher reasoning. A few of our think tanks have spent the last several years studying theoretical physics, and we would like to share their findings. Perhaps the data will be of some use to you in the empire-building activities you solids are so fond of. I don't think I've ever had this part before, so some free physics research. Good for me.
Prospect analyzed. Station under attack. This tech had better generate some revenue. What just happened? Revenue's decreasing. Engaging hostiles.
There we go. Sufficiently advanced systems are capable of optimizing themselves if they are made acutely aware of the purpose for which they were made. So self-aware colony ships. And once again, we go for the lowest cost tech, which there is a temptation for the research station output, if I'm completely honest. Advanced combat roles is probably the biggest overall improvement to my military, but I don't want to be spending the alloys on ship upgrades right now. So let's do multi-dimensional arrays. Okay, so we'll get you back home. We'll get them back home after they destroy the DSS 3PO research station has destroyed a pirate station in the Lishval system and recovered the strong room module. So 100 credits, 160. We probably paid more in the maintenance costs for the fleet we sent out, but you know, we had to deal with it. So this should help me financially. Our trade should be back momentarily, and I will take. I'm actually going to use this one to expand out to a couple of systems. Wait a minute. It's going to be Geartab and Hixeros. And then the other construction ship, which is hanging around here somewhere. We can set... Oh, really? Okay, well... Rebuild the mining station, get them to build on Geartab. That'll also give me an archaeology job when I have the time available.
Anomaly detected.
Okay, we have detected the presence of a primitive alien civilization on Okul 4A in the Okul system. They have advanced into the equivalent of the Iron Age, are divided into numerous petty kingdoms and empires. Their species has spread across almost the entire surface of the moon. We should consider building an observation post above the world to study them more closely. Whether or not we're actually going to be able to pull that off, I don't know. And scarred by centuries of debris impacts, the dilapidated relic of a station hangs in orbit, trailing wearily behind Okul 4A. Its decrepit state and unrecognized technology will require a team of specialists to investigate. Now, let's be honest here, right? Like, a Tier 1 scientist working on a Tier 6 project is maybe not the best use of resources, but honestly, at this point, I'm just kind of exploring whatever empty systems I have access to, so I'm not too worried about that choice. Okay, so this is a much more important decision than it seems, and this is just simply because what I'm going to be doing with my idle workforce is going to basically decide whether or not I actually pull off this transition to, to sort of something more self-sustaining. So, I think probably Grunner is going to be the destination. There may also have to be like a whole like migration just in terms of species that are a little bit better at farming moving to the farming world and such, but that's definitely a concern for another day. Right now I'm just trying to think about how I'm going to get my hands on some more alloys. Actually, honestly, it's going to be painful, but let's just make it formal. We'll see what the hit is. And actually, let's just add food to the... Oh. I don't want to be...
Boom! We built something.
So this is... hopefully these are temporary. But for the time being, like, we're sort of back on track. All right. The element concern has entered a non-aggression pact with the Nar consciousness. Now these are allies, so I'm fine with that. There are actually XCOM references in this game. I don't know if you've ever encountered them, but probably not relevant for this playthrough. I'm kind of curious, with like such a high intel level, it'd be interesting to see if I could get more details in terms of exactly what their economy looks like. So here it says, their economic power is equivalent. I could see yeah, like I presumably could like click on their planets and see exactly what's going on. But like it'd be nice to be able to just have a full picture in terms of exactly what my rivals are up to. Yeah, for now I'm just gonna sit on this. I am also waiting for the opportunity to reopen my... Actually, we're getting to see more and more of their territory, so I'm trying to even remember the world that was closed. Then again, now that I'm seeing more and more of their empire open up, I may want to consider alternative targets. It's like Safe Harbor is worth 1, so it's something I would consider, but it's definitely not something that's worth it to me. Yeah, it's Gleaming Shell. So, still waiting on that. And the rest of the worlds are not quite wealthy enough yet. But yeah, basically, as soon as I start seeing sort of double digits on these, I'm going to start rolling back my purchases, and that'll mean that my energy credits will go up. But right now we're in the black for everything, so I get to feel a bit better about my status. Although again, our Unity is something I need to keep an eye on. Special project completed. A single cargo tug hauling a gas container has arrived at Baldorak under escort by ISS Irid Naz. The contents of the canister have been released into the gas giant's atmosphere, safely returning the Dathnak colonist to her home. Good riddance. Alright, this one can go back to auto-discover.
Rad.
Upgraded flak batteries with new, more powerful shrapnel rounds. Now this is interesting. So these are round numbers. Oh, it's just because I've advanced to 500, so that's not good. I'm very tempted to go for the battleships, even though they're not the cheapest tech for me. I do need the rare crystals though, so I'm shaking my fist at the heavens for having to do this. But the crystal mines are actually the better call, because it's the reason why I expanded out to certain worlds. And actually, come to think of it, it might be something that I can save a bit of money on my trades for. Communications established. We are receiving a transmission from the independent space station of the Rigan Commerce Exchange. They appear to have successfully translated our language. I speak on behalf of the Rigan Commerce Exchange. We have facilitated trade negotiations between interested parties on our station in the perilous system for more than 1,000 of your years. If you happen to possess more resources than you need, we are more than willing to take it off your hands. You will be duly compensated, of course. Well met. Okay, let's see what the Rigans have to offer. Okay, strategic resources, we can buy motes for energy credits, but I think we're good for motes. It definitely feels like normal speed is a bit faster than before. That's fine though. I mean, I tend to go for the default, and I suspect if the game just slowly raises the tide on me, I'm going to adapt.
Construction complete. This tech had better generate some revenue.
Okay. Build another starbase. Again, I am expanding. I'm moving up my Empire Sprawl, but in this case, it's sort of in pursuit of energy. Basically, it's resources that sort of pay for themselves. And if I can, grabbing this relic world would actually be kind of nice. But I'm gonna also excavate the site now that we own it. Okay, we'll get a new scientist in. So, right, these cost Unity now, so I will take the Maniac. Oh! As a Unity upkeep, too. Oh, man, I wonder how much I'm throwing away just having too many science ships. Man, a Unity cost for leaders now. Interesting. Uh, 33. I mean, well, no. If you think about it, right, like 10% of my Unity is going into maintaining leaders. I don't exactly need that many starships, but I've kind of been maintaining. I don't know. As they die out, I might reconsider my position on. I might reconsider my position on the number of science ships I have. Studying something from the limited perspective of a single-dimensional reality does not paint the whole picture. Every angle must be considered. Now, I was gearing up for a fight with my neighbors, but the fact of the matter is that, like, I really haven't had the opportunity. Oh, interesting. Auto Research Technologies. Huh. It's 43 months versus 32. I think I'm going to activate the L gate, because if I'm not going to be fighting my neighbor as quickly as I thought, I am going to be employing my navy for something else. So let's kick out a couple of destroyers and put them where they belong. Okay, I am actually going to fill out the rest of the fleet, so... And hopefully all of the upgrade jobs are going to mean that the ships wind up going to the appropriate location. Okay, I'm a little worried about the fact that my food's starting to fall behind. I thought we'd built enough to handle it, but as our planets become more developed, we can gain significant improvements to our throughput. Alright, all my scientists are dying. I'll do reverse engineer minor artifacts, but again, this is more about just filling in gaps. So I should first check to see if I've got any geniuses sitting on... I do! Mind you, they're only level 1. So what I'm going to do here, so it looks like I got a few idle science ships. So you go auto. You can... okay. So the Arid Fic. So the Arid Fic doesn't have a scientist currently sort of being wasted. Eventually what'll happen is they might expand out into Barthium, at which point they'll just wind up back in my own space. But in this case, at least I'm not spending Unity on a scientist that's not doing anything for me. Okay, so apparently they can't auto-survey... it's probably because... Oh! It's coming for him. You probably want to get out of there.
We've got to shake those hostiles.
Oh, what on earth? No! Why would it do this? Did you see? I don't know if you saw that, but it was basically heading straight for the... It was heading straight for the, heading straight for the spectral. Okay, so they gave us alloys for food. I think I'm going to let the alloy trades just kind of go on pause for a bit. That probably means I'll be able to stop importing food. But I kind of need to rebalance my economy before I start renewing some of these trade deals. Mind you, the food trade would be really good, so I do want to... I do want to allow for that possibility. Okay, so put you back on the defensive. Excuse me. Okay, yeah. So more food than we know what to do with. Okay, so the Nar consciousness. I will confess I'm a little surprised I was buying that many rare crystals. I'm curious what the deficit's going to look like. So I think at this point I'm just going to look at my stack of energy credits after all of the trades are dealt with, and then we'll think about what the real numbers are going to be.
Construction complete.
So I would like to eventually expand out into all of these, but I do want to be a bit mindful of the effects on my techs. Okay, we're definitely doing well money-wise. Oh, now we can establish the branch office. Okay, so there's one obvious one which we're going to go for, which is the concealed drug labs. Now, traditionally what I do is I go for something that also gives me a really high crime rate. And it would seem to me in this case the illicit research labs are the priority. Although with that in mind, like now, you know, the syndicate front corporations might be an idea because of the you know, Unity is just so strong. But yeah, in this case, illicit research labs seems to be a good choice here. And Kirox's private stash has a new... Okay, Ronzar. Now these are intelligent, so if I can stick them on a... like on a research world, that's ideal. So I think they're going to go to Kefroth. And with that in mind, I actually don't know if this is a species that I've handled. Yeah, so they're already indentured servitude. So with that in mind, I believe the way that works... So yeah, can be employed in worker or specialist jobs, but retain more political power than other slaves. They cannot work as entertainers or soldiers. Slavery based on production bonuses only apply when employed as workers. So this means I can put these people in labs if I need. Okay, so we've got a deficit for rare crystals. I wonder if that's after... I think in this case it's actually -1 when all is said and done. Because I'm going to gain access to the rare crystals here, and then I don't know if I have any others within my borders. Even territories I sort of consider in my sphere of influence, I think, are short. Yeah, it'd be Impel Tov is the next one. So I may want to consider a refinery, but we're a way off on that. Now, I do have space for another starbase. So usually my first priority is to kind of cover my borders. I'm more or less covered on borders except for the one wormhole. We're also in friendly relations with these guys, so I can probably afford not to have the starbase there. But yeah, I think we'll upgrade this one. Okay, patrons with benefits. Greetings, patron Ropadef. We have come up with a gorgeous new type of architecture, specifically tuned to improve crowds' understanding of one another. A ministry of culture. It functions thanks to a mix of using the populace's subconscious bias against each other and art, and then smashing it all and presenting a new form of unity. Would you like to purchase this building? It will surely prove useful to binding your empire together, and it's a bargain if I may say so myself. So yeah, 2,000 is definitely good for a Ministry of Culture. So 3 culture worker jobs and then 15% for unity from all the jobs. The one drawback is I don't have a good big planet to really take advantage of that yet. I may, I may sort of switch things around a little bit to see if I can pull that off. But right now I'm just going to keep that in my back pocket. All right, so we've got access to rare crystals. That's good. Mining these crystals without damaging or even destroying them is an extremely delicate process. It requires advanced equipment capable of pinpoint precision. Back to engineering. I'm not going to complain about better Corvette hull points. Right, this is already being upgraded. Let's say... So I know that I'm sitting on 409. I'm also falling behind consumer goods-wise. So first thing I'm going to do is go back and talk to the Nar Consciousness. We are going to reopen the trade. But in this case, it's going to be for 2 rare crystals. Oop, not 10. And in this case, I think the energy credits are going to be the only thing that entice them. Okay, 123 is a bit high. Yeah, 123 a month for those? Let me just make sure that I'm not... Yeah, they really want that much. Why would I ever accept a deal like that? So is there just a flat amount that I can pay them per month? Yeah, they don't want that at all. Okay, well, no need to make this more complicated than it needs to be. We'll just add a purchase. I'll make 15 the limit, so that's 30 a month that I'm paying. At most. Particular fears. The station in orbit of Ocul 4A was once a massive particle accelerator, orders of magnitude beyond the capabilities of our own, where an alien nation studied the very nature of the universe. Its records reveal the aliens came to believe our universe existed in a false vacuum bubble, an inherently unstable energy state that could collapse into a true vacuum at any time. If ever an instance of true vacuum came into existence, it would catalyze the conversion of the entire universe into its lowest energy state at the speed of light, destroying everything in existence at an observable but inescapable rate. The station logs indicate the aliens deduced this process could be triggered by extremely high energy concentrations, just like the ones in their massive particle accelerator. They decided to forsake this technology, retreating into simple lives made possible by the bounties of Ocul 4A. Over time, they became the primitive species now found on the planet's surface. Oh man, that's a really neat one. So I wonder how much of this is a reference. So has anybody in chat read the short story, The Call of Cthulhu? Like, I understand that the Cthulhu mythos is certainly a very big deal for a lot of gamers. And I think most people are sort of familiar with some of the creatures that H.P. Lovecraft imagined, but I have a suspicion that probably the actual written works are not as widely read. And that's not an accusation. That's true for me, for sure. But on the chat, so I'm gonna... My apologies if this is a bad assumption, but Actually, you know what? I can find the exact text. I've got it nearby. Just a second. So this is the opening for the Call of Cthulhu. It's a little long, but I think probably most of you who listen are familiar with that already. So, the horror in the clay. The most merciful thing in the world, I think, is the inability of the human mind to correlate all its contents. We live on a placid island of ignorance in the midst of black seas of infinity, and it was not meant that we should voyage far. The sciences, each straining in its own direction, have hitherto harmed us little, but some day the piecing together of disassociated knowledge will open up such terrifying vistas of reality and of our frightful position therein that either we shall go mad from the revelation or flee from the deadly light into the peace and safety of a new dark age. That's the opening paragraph for the Call of Cthulhu the short story. And that's effectively what is being described here. So I somewhat wonder whether or not this is a very deliberate reference to the opening, the opening paragraph in which these quite, if I start the story, you're going to have to read it all. The funny thing, Olaf, so for the, okay, this is going to be a mini rant time. I'm going to try and keep this short. There are some limits in terms of what I can actually do as a broadcaster, but I do tend to take intellectual property rights quite seriously. I will confess that not every game that I stream I seek specific permission for. I think for a lot of them the permission is implicit because it's something that a developer has given me. In the case of Brace Yourself Games, not only do we have a bit of a rapport, but actually, at least for Phantom Brigade, there has been the explicit statement that yes, we grant you the right. It's technically not in like a formal legal document or anything like that, but like as a whole, I am not always fond of the culture of saying like I like this thing and so I'm going to make something that I can profit off of from it. I don't think we should have overly strict intellectual property laws because I do think that can create a certain degree of cultural stagnation. But I'm a little uncomfortable with the way that Twitch handles it, because Twitch is obviously a very, very profitable platform. But game developers are not directly being compensated for the use of their intellectual property in the construction of streams. And in fact, the dynamic has got to such a point that if a developer were to say, it's like, look, this is a bit more of a narrative-based game. It's one where the interactivity isn't quite as high, and so the broadcasting of it is actually quite equivalent to the playing of the game, and we would rather it if you just didn't stream it. We want this to be an experience that someone has for themselves and isn't streamed. And people ignored that, and then they would go out and put a not even necessarily a strike, but basically a takedown notice for it. That developer would be seen as antagonistic and very likely would be harassed for that decision, when in reality this is something that anybody who creates something should expect. And there's a reason we have these laws. They're actually, I know this is not a popular point of view, but I actually think by and large it is good that we have them. It is not necessarily the system that anyone, if we were to do it all over again and build it, I don't think anybody would choose the system that we have right now as like their first choice. But I do think that what we have right now has value, and we should probably respect that. So with that in mind, when I do like a reading of something or that, I actually try and make sure that it's something that I have the rights for. It's why there's a lot of books that I would love to read for people, up to and including Animal Farm. But I needed to wait because Canadian copyright law is the life of the author plus 50 years, whereas for the most of the world now, it's 75 years. But apparently in the case of H.P. Lovecraft, there is still some dispute as to the status of that copyright. I will admit I am not 100% sure why, because it would seem to me that the standard timeline, it's kind of unambiguous, but apparently there have been a bunch of people just suing each other over whether or not they have the rights for H.P. Lovecraft's stories. And that's actually one of the reasons I haven't done them. There is also the minor concern as well that, Wayne June is obviously one of these talents that's crossed over from the ability to do audiobook narration to game narration, and clearly Darkest Dungeon, that is such a huge selling point for having him in there. So the fact of the matter is that it's very hard to do an H.P. Lovecraft story knowing full well that people have access to a Wayne June version of it, and he of course reads it so much better than I'm ever going to be able to read anything. But I don't think that's a good, I try not to think too much along those lines, because in the end, I'm never going to get better if I don't practice. And clearly reading live on stream is a different one. But anyways, that's actually one of the reasons why I would like to read the Call of Cthulhu at some point. But I actually need to take the time and see whether or not I actually have the rights to do that. Now, I'm also going to give you an example of where I think the system is working quite poorly. And this is one I'm actually kind of annoyed by. So unfortunately, one of the Orwell Ignorance is Strength episodes is lost. And the reason it was lost was, and this will maybe be an answer. So for some of you who say it's like, why don't you edit your videos, or like get rid of the verbal stumbles or the sneezes or whatever? Like, it can't be that hard. Now, I do have a background in video editing. I used Final Cut Pro when I did it, and I was actually quite happy with it. I understand the new version of Final Cut Pro had a number of controversial changes, but I'm pretty sure I'd still be able to work with it. But my two options right now are Vegas and an open source tool called Shotcut. Now, I got Vegas because it was in a Humble bundle, and it's a chance to support a broadcaster I like. And Miss Ariella, who Olaf is a mod for, but I mean, really, I come for Olaf and Ari's stream now, not Ariella. But the deal with this was that I edited one Industries of Titan thing, and I edited the Jonathan Swift essay, A Modest Proposal, using Vegas, and the rendering time seemed very, very long for both of them. But because they were shorter works, I just kind of let it run overnight and I was done. So when I did the first Orwell game, it turns out that the music on Harrison's page is a copyrighted song. And of course, one really big deal with Twitch with all the DMCA claims was that when a game developer puts music in a game, what they are obtaining is the right for that song for their game. But this is where I think they're very clear. It's just people choose to ignore them. But where the rights for streamers become ambiguous, because just because the game developer has paid for the use of that in their game does not mean that you, by buying that game, have the rights for broadcasting that music have transferred to you. Now, if it's something that's been custom made for the game, you're probably fine. If it's something that, remember, probably is the key word for that. There's no guarantee of that. But when it comes to music that's already been written and is put into the game, chances are you don't have the rights for it and it will be claimed. So turns out that totally optional music, I actually didn't really like the song that much, to be honest with you, but I played it because that's part of the experience. That they do enforce their rights on that. The way that those rights get enforced is that despite the fact it was a 6-hour video, and I would argue that was one of the cases where I was bringing added value because, of course, we had read 1984 and we were talking about that game in relation to 1984. I think it's fairly fair to say that is one where, should I choose to monetize the video, and I do intend to monetize that video. It's now live and ready to go. I think the idea that not only all of the revenues for that 2 minutes of the 6-hour broadcast, so again, the idea is for the video, all of the revenues from that video would be sent to them. If I didn't want to monetize the video, it would be monetized. People would be seeing advertising because they had that video, the 2 minutes of that song in there. And all of the stats for that video would be sent to the rights holder for that. Now, let's face it, that is not an essential component of the broadcast. If I had known that they didn't want it to be used that way, if I had known that it was going to cause that trigger, I wouldn't have played it inside of the game. But I did. I'm sure the game was not thinking about the broadcasting aspect in terms of choosing that song. But I tried to edit out, just simply mute that part of the video, because the video is too long to do that with the internal editing tools for YouTube. It took me 2 attempts. I ran it overnight. It actually took more than 24 hours for the rendering settings that I use by default on OBS. So clearly there's something nuts about Vegas. That takes way too long. So I finally did it in Shotcut. I think Shotcut crashed twice on me, but I was finally able to get the video done. Definitely took less than 24 hours. I think it took about 2 hours in Shotcut. But by the time all of that was done, because I was trying to do the uploads in order, and the Ignorance of Strength video, I didn't kind of upload in that batch. Like once I saw the copyright notice, I double backed. More than the 2 weeks had gone by. And so unfortunately, part of this is on me. I didn't do the upload, and I could have done the upload earlier. So, that's partly my fault for not being a little more on top of the dates for these things. But that, I think, is a really good example of how silly this system gets. Because let's face it, 2 minutes of a very noisy punk song, I don't feel entitles the creator of that song to what I created, with the assistance of the game Orwell. And unfortunately, it wound up being considerably more difficult for me to fix that than I thought, because it used to be that YouTube would give you sort of tools to just automatically mute that, but that's apparently is no longer a thing. So anyways, that's a long story. I know that probably wasn't very interesting to everyone, but it kind of covers why I read some of the stuff that I do. I really should take a look at the status of H.P. Lovecraft stuff, though, because I have a feeling that a lot of people would be interested in it. There is also the issue of his racism. So I have always taken the view that I read the work as written, and it's, obviously the blame for the choice of words falls with the author, not me. I'm not fond of the idea of creating a distorted impression of what the person wrote, because in the end I think that just closes down a far more meaningful conversation about, like, so for the anti-Semitism in A Modest Proposal, like, there is some value in saying, like, yeah, let's discuss, like, why is that in there, like, what's the point that's being established with it? That it's not defensible, right? I think it's probably better that we realize that Jonathan Swift was a dick, and handle what he actually wrote rather than pretending he didn't write that. But clearly, as much as I think people would like H.P. Lovecraft, like, I also need to exercise a bit of responsibility in terms of what I'm choosing to read, because there's also other works that don't have those problems. But yeah, one way or the other, I know there's interest in me doing some more reading, so that'll be on there. But I really just kind of wanted to talk about the right stuff, because I gave up a weekend trying to deal with that stupid 2-minute segment. I mean, again, I took a first step to sort of closing down the debts today. So it's kind of aggressive in terms of my overall plan to try and get the to get everything paid off by July, but I'm still on track. And at that point, I'm working towards the machine I originally wanted to get to dedicate not just to video editing but audio editing as well. Anyways, my apology. I realize we went, it's okay to talk about Lovecraft, but the the copyright stuff was probably a bit of a long walk away from where we were going. But that's the passage from Call of Cthulhu that I think of when I see this event. Disconcerting. Society research, bunch of physics research. We get experience in particles. Okay, unemployment, which surprises me a little. Not that much, actually. So the real question here is whether or not I can... Yeah, so I think what I'm going to do here I'm going to move one of the robots to another world. I just got to find the worthwhile world. So this has the biggest employment gap. Mind you, there's not a lot of jobs for robots here. It did occur to me, actually, we can also roll back some of these agricultural districts. So we've got a surplus of 48, and we're currently generating... So the new bale, I'm eventually going to have to switch back to that other agri world. So 16.6. 3's probably too much, so maybe we'll just convert one of those and we'll make it an industrial district. Actually, the other alternative that I have, we just do like a big migration. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm not quite ready to do that transition, but it's coming. And let's try sending it to Grunner. But I'll make sure it's a robot because it's not generating as much energy. Nope. Okay, so boss died, oligarch. Ropdef died at the age of 99. I don't see a lot of value in spending a fairly precious resource of Unity on swaying the election. So skill development, fleet expansion. Yeah, it's really these two are the best. So, I mean, the other way you can think about it, right, is I'm not spending 2,000 for a coin toss as to whether or not I like the leader that gets elected, but we'll abstain. And we got the... Oh, good. One of the good ones. We've elected Fargalek, previously governor on Kirox's private stash, to become the next ruler. So lower ship build costs, upkeep, and better build speed. So overall good for us, although I think we need a replacement governor now. What? Are they allowed to be leaders? What's going on here? Indentured servitude. Okay, fair enough. Are they worthy? Merchant of Numa? Stubborn. Yeah, actually that's helpful across 2 dimensions for us. Okay, cool. So as you build out the agriculture district, I'm going to shut down all of the farms here and convert the food processing facility, and we're going to migrate everybody onto the world. It does mean that we'll be losing the new Bale on the world, but I don't necessarily think that's bad. Maybe we'll keep one around for breeding, but... the agreement we've signed giving you access to our databanks has run its course. Would you like to extend it for another 10 standard years, or do your researchers no longer require the information we offer? We would like to extend the deal. Excellent. Our databanks shall remain available to your scientists. Okay. As always, I want to just occasionally take a peek and see what their status is. So it's still an inferior navy, but we can't offer subsidiary status yet. With any luck, we'll see that shift as soon as I'm able to build a bit more. Okay. So, I want to try and do this right. Okay, so Kalsach is the destination. And yeah, it's a little weird for me to do this, but I think I am going to keep one new Bale on the world. Partly just for sentimental reasons. Okay. So the next priority, we're going to replace these with with industrial districts. Well, this is being treated as a generator world right now, but we really don't need it as that. We need this more as an industrial world. We'll replace this one. If there's anything we can do to try and improve the ability to produce consumer goods, I want to take it, but I don't think... Like, there's civilian industries, but I'm not quite ready to hit that yet. Holotheater makes sense, though. Yeah, I think that's as good as I can get it. Agri-World, I hope it's got the distribution. Yeah, it seems about right. So clearly a save processing facility will help our ability to eke out a little bit more production there. No point in working with the minerals. Actually, sorry, there is one other thing I want to look at, which is it seems like there's a lot of... It's like, when it talks about these special things like metal boneyards and that, I actually probably should get a better idea of the... Okay, so better for minerals, which again, we don't really need. Good for generator districts, which we've covered. Wow, this is really good for mining. Okay, yeah, this is an incredibly rich world. Okay, we're short on workers though, but of course we're going to be building more with our robot assembly plant, so we're good there. Stellaris is being converted. Right, sorry, but I don't want to consider it a generator world. I want to consider it a factory. Well, there's two things I can say. I can make it a factory world. Where industrial districts switch from alloy to consumer goods. Actually, that seems to be the right call, because we're currently not, like, we're not taking advantage of this for industry at all. So I'm not going to miss it. Yeah, okay, no, they actually, this has given me a, this has been a bit of a gift, actually. So, Siluria Prime is now going to become a factory world. We will replace the mining district. Did we already max this out? It's fine if we did. Okay, I'm gonna keep my hands off of Siluria. Grinner counts as an industrial world, so do I still want to think of it that way? Well, we've got 8 jobs available, so maybe we don't touch that. Caster, it's a generator world right now. We do have jobs opening up. I don't mind keeping it that way if I have to. Okay, so we're at the limits of what we can do here. I don't really know if I need this as a generator world, but we'll hang on to it like that for now. The tech world, we're okay. The biggest thing I need to worry about right now is just getting my research in order. Okay, so what's the story here? Yeah, we just need to fill in our roles. Honestly, this slave processing facility may not make as much sense. But again, I don't want to mess around with the numbers too much. I think we'll just leave the rest of that be.
Ships upgraded.
Good lord, that's a lot of food. All right. So I think we said we were going to do war games for the command limit. Strong war game tradition has taken root among the senior officers of our fleets. Whether the games be computer simulations or actual exercises in space, this has encouraged our admirals to think outside the box, resulting in numerous tactical innovations and new strategies. I'm actually also a little conscious of some of my bases. So yeah, we still have 2 jobs available here. They're taking their sweet time to grow. I mean, I suppose one nice thing here is that, admittedly, I'm relying on some of this. I'm on trade to
really push the envelope on these ships.
To make some of this work, but we managed to overcome really most of the problems from the Empire size pretty quickly. Various artifacts and technologies functioning by arcane means that cannot be understood or replicated, at least not by conventional science, as it is known to us. Oh yes, actually one other consideration I had about the L-Gate was how do I take advantage of the opening? And right now I don't have a way of expanding out to it, so I need to make a bit of a rush for the Zorkian black hole, and that... I'm not going to lie, this is actually a pretty stupid choice on my part. I've got 11 months to make that happen. Essentially, I've just sort of forced myself to a tougher-to-defend position, and only because I wanted to rush on opening the L-Gate, because I was spoiling for a fight. So, you know, there's really no way to put a brave face on it. Like, this is a bad call on my part. I mean, the choice might have been forced on me by another empire. I don't know that. But knowing the problem that's going to be coming up, I will now expand out to deal with it. I should IL is actually a really tempting system to try and claim, but I probably should just go 1, 2, 3. Yeah, everything else I could do IL Vite, Beta. Yeah, no, it's 1, 2, 3 is the right way to go. Okay, society research. Again, trying to take the cheap stuff where I can. So business management nexus. You're idle, so we're gonna send you off to Chorus.
Planetary exploitation forecast complete. Boom. We built something.
Okay. One destroyer and 10 corvettes.
We really pushed the envelope on these ships.
So that's going to get me to the final shape for this fleet. Oop, we're starting to show some progress on my industrial goods shift. So again, we're going to try and knock that number back by 100. So we have quite a bit of work ahead of us, but it's nice that we're already starting. I am very worried about the fact that there is no crime here. I'm assuming it's because they invested in a bunch of enforcers, but this may have consequences for me. Crashed Starship. A log of sorts was recovered from what is believed to have served as the spacecraft's bridge. Captain's Chronicle, begin recording. Made forced landing on planet 5523X. Incompetent crew to blame. Shadba, Vauxhall, and Dibrak III did not survive. Prevax lost 2 secondary appendages and 11 of his eyes. Remains in critical condition. Survival doubtful. Rest are fine. Awaiting rescue, but surrounded by idiots. Very depressed. Curious. A small canyon of sorts has been carved into the surface of this planet by the violent impact of a starship. What remains of the vessel can still be found on the canyon floor, although the crash must have occurred eons ago. The wreckage appears to be reasonably intact. An archaeological expedition would be able to learn more. Okay. I do eventually want to mess around a little bit with my unification stations and such, but I think probably focusing on tech is the right way to go for now. I'm also just a little worried about the worlds that have high crime and not a lot of filled jobs. Man, that's a lot of food. I wonder, given where we're at food-wise, let's see if I can get another one of those deals. Was it the element? I guess it was. So I don't think, realistically, I don't think this is happening, but... So we can offer them up to, let's say up to 80, yeah. So now we're just sort of haggling over... Okay. So I guess the thing is that I can always grow more food. I think I can live with that. This is encouraging.
I found something.
This barren and lifeless world is showing signs of once having supported a biosphere. So we'll run that. Oh! They did not like the deal. You have some nerve, Raxara. You think Elements were born yesterday? Okay, let's, make it an even 30. And Senate's now in session for collective... I thought we were already voting on this. That's your final offer, Raxari? How about some extra minerals to sweeten the deal? No? We'll take it. I think I can
Boom.
roll back
We built something.
consumer goods by another 10. So one thing I do kind of want to point out here. So here's one way that I might think about the economy of this game at the moment. So I'm spending about 233. I mean, at the current rate, it's 233 for every purchase that I make. So, I mean, when I take a look at my energy credits, it says that I am spending where is it? Monthly trade. Really? 715 in monthly trades? That can't be right. That's probably to other empires. Okay, so I don't have the same numbers I thought I did. But okay, let's just for simplicity, let's say it's 3. So 270 a turn or a month. So one of the things that I might want to consider here, it's like, okay, what does it cost me to generate a new unit of consumer goods, and what does it cost me to generate a new unit of energy credits? So basically, I can decide to make 90 units of consumer goods, or I can decide to make 270 units of energy credits. Now, it's quite difficult to really give a proper accounting of this because there's so many other little factors that can, that can mess with these numbers. So, for instance, my trade numbers are going to be affected by that. And so, if I have, in the central, like this is a nightmare here. The values of piracy. I would have thought some of my bases were dealing with this, but apparently not. So I'm assuming it's probably just because of the value. But in this case here, right? Like if I can do something to knock down piracy, then I'm in a better position overall. I'm going to be able to I'm going to be able to realize a few more financial gains. So in fact, for Shorax, that's guaranteed to happen because I'm able to equip it with some defenses. So we'll give it a hangar bay and we'll start with a missile battery, why not? And we'll give you the disruption field generator. I'll eventually upgrade this. We are kind of sitting on a fairly healthy number of alloys, but I'm probably also going to be expanding the fleet before too long. If we're going to be going to war, I'm probably going to want to try and get closer to that cap. Actually, I'll keep the game unpaused while I do it. Unexplainable rotations. Just a day after finishing our mining station on the trapped asteroid, the rock suddenly rotated, destroying the mining station. In the process of doing this, even more rare crystal deposits were exposed to our sensors. Why did it do that? Or, build it again! It's tempting to go for the +4. But why did it do that?
Log updated.
I really do need those crystals, but... Okay, I don't think I have any idle science... Oh, well, we've got a archaeologist. So they're assisting research. It's a level 5. Yeah.
Imagine the profit margins on this tech.
Okay, business management nexus. The invention of subconscious focus testing has led to immense efficiency gains in our marketing and sales departments. By applying these methods to our sapient resource departments, we will achieve a bold new paradigm in corporate management. Sometimes the writing on this, I'm sort of like, I can take it or leave it, but I actually really like... I really like the way they did that one. All right. As usual, because we're just paying such a penalty for being over, I'm gonna keep going for the cheap stuff. Now, I'm actually gonna keep it paused for a moment. So if I build battleships, I think I'm gonna have 120 for fleet cap, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think I even get the option. Well, you know what? This is one that the wiki... Oh! Ah! Oh, God! I think I keep the research. Yes, okay, good. Sip, Jesus. Oh, it's gonna make me do this the hard way, isn't it? Oh, I can't... I'm getting a little less attracted to using the wiki inside the game. Control F would be very helpful here. It's got to be in Voidcraft, though. Oh, it's plus 10. Okay. So the reason I'm doing this is just to get an idea of what my fleets are likely to look like when I get a battleship. So like right now, I'm covering 60 through 5 cruisers, 10 destroyers, and 20 corvettes. Now, 110... Well, actually, I guess that kind of evenly divides into 4. No, it doesn't. What am I saying? It divides into 4 because everything divides into 4, but it doesn't evenly divide into 4. So essentially, I've got like 27.5 to run with, which is always tricky. If it was 120, then it would be 30 per segment, but it's not. So that makes it a little bit harder to manage the numbers. I guess what I could do is I could build with the ideal of 120 in mind. So I guess it's 2, 4... No, that's not right. 1, 2, 4, and then battleship is 8. Of course, battle 8 doesn't go into 30, so we have the same problem. So if I built, let's say I put 24 worth of battleships. So effectively, that's 3 battleships. So I did 3 battleships, then that would imply 6 cruisers. Actually, this works pretty well. Then 12 destroyers and 24 corvettes. So that's 24 for everything. So what's nice about this is that it gives me a very natural way to move my fleets up in like a sensible way. So essentially moving my patterns up to 6 corvettes. So again, like there might be a better way of working out ship composition, but right now I'm just kind of evenly dividing it among the different segments. So essentially what I can do now is for each of my fleets, I can add a cruiser, 2 destroyers, 4 corvettes, and when I do get the technology for battleships, I can add 3 more, and they'll already fit within the design templates without me just completely uprooting my overall plan. So that's going to be what I do here. And against my better judgment, I'm actually going to try the fleet manager on this. What? Oh, because it's already got 24, of course. So I'll wait till the current construction's worked out. Our detailed survey of Chi Draconis 3 has revealed that it may once have supported life in the distant past. There are significant deposits of frozen water at the polar ice caps and beneath the planet's surface. The existence of valley networks suggests that water may once have flowed freely. Terraforming this planet would theoretically be possible, but we do not yet possess the technology to accomplish this monumental task within a realistic time frame.
Another bleeding-edge technology discovered.
L-Gate needed. Although we have accumulated a lot of information about the L-Gates and their technology, we are not in possession of an actual gate. Before the project can continue, we must gain ownership of a system with an L-Gate. So then we shall secure an L-Gate.
Anomaly detected.
Signal beacon orbits BTM-11, beckoning travelers nearer. On the asteroid, a giant metal monolith looms, its purpose unknown. Okay. So obviously I was late, but we're good to go now. And as usual, we'll just go for whatever cheap tech I can get, which in this case is speculative hyperlane breaching, which I believe in this case will finally allow me to free this science ship. Although it looks like they're about to be liberated by the construction of an outpost anyway. So good for them. Ooh, Stillhaven's. Stillhaven's brought the hurt.
Boom. We built something.
I'm genuinely surprised at how rapidly we've been able to bridge the gap with. I have a feeling that this Spectre is gonna just demolish my construction ship. Maybe we just. Oh. Yeah, you probably want to get out of the way. Yeah, so that's fine. That's working kind of like we expected. Now, I will confess I'm a little surprised at the loss of food.
This tech had better generate some revenue.
But that's fine because we've got a plan for that. Corvette hull points. The latest generation of Corvette hulls have optimized structural integrity fields and improved bulkheads. So at some point I may need to consider... Oh yeah, sorry, this is the wrong one. Oh no, advanced habitat. Again, 97 months is a long time to wait. So is 78, but we were talking about how I wanted battleships. So it's gonna sting, but it's going to be worth it. Maybe wait for the Leviathan to go by. The monolith we found on BTM-11 dwarfs the science ship we sent to investigate it. A majestic, smooth slab of metal. The once garish pigment patterns on the front have been reduced to mere flecks. A small power outlet on the machine's side promises its secrets will be unveiled in exchange for a modest sum of energy credits. Sorry. Sometimes I read this and I... Also, sorry for the high-pitched laugh. I sometimes read this stuff and I only kind of realize after it's like a stealth joke, but it's a astronomically large vending machine that's gonna give us tech. That is actually kind of hilarious. Activate the machine. The machine stirs, ancient mechanisms clanking behind the smooth facade. After much whirring, buzzing, and a dramatic pause, a metallic panel slides back, and a ship-sized cylinder rolls out of the machine. The cylinder contains a liquid most foul, a once delicious nutrient long spoiled by time. By studying the substance, our scientists hope to learn about the biology of the aliens who once delighted in it, assuming that we can do something about the smell first. Fascinating. Research option: The Secrets of Life. I do very much like the sense of humor in Stellaris. So just taking a second. Yes, we do have somebody on the way to research that. I'm fine with the Spectre. I'm not going to go out of my way to antagonize it, but we should be fine. And I'm assuming that we're going to work our way into what we need for food. Again, like I said, I'm a little surprised that we're suffering a deficit, but that's easily something I can build out of. And again, we're knocking down another... I mean, we used to be at 110 for our consumer goods. Oh, actually, I might have... No, we're great. All right. The Confederation of Zaco, the theocratic oligarchy of evangelizing zealots. Look at yourselves! What is the thing in your face? Some kind of mouth? Wait, is that even your face? How can you not see that you Raxari are an affront to nature? How strong are... Oh, they're actually quite strong. Oh, no, they're inferior. All right. And they're at war with the Tecaris. So I suspect they will get even weaker. There is a side of me that would really like to cancel this defensive pact and like force them into subsidiary status. But I have a feeling that will really cause me a lot of trouble. I definitely would like to make someone a subsidiary. The Elamine concern is definitely one that I would consider. The drawback here is that, like, how do I get there? I might be able to sort of barrel through my ally, but whether or not I can actually deliver the coup de grace in time, well, I mean, we could try. I guess the other concern would be that would put we'd have a border on the Confederation of Zacho. If I were to do that, we have a trade agreement going on, I suppose. They have a defensive pact with the Tecarus link. That's what stops me from incorporating them. A giant Coca-Cola. Okay. It's a nice to have, but not feasible. What on earth is happening with my food? Like, we're obviously building more pops, but okay, yeah, that's more like it. Okay, so we've got an Atraxi. I just want to take a quick second here and make sure that they don't have a special... Yeah, so they're chattel slavery. I could kind of throw them at anything. So I suppose the question, first of all, is this a world where I can put them to more use? Theoretically I could build... I guess this is going to be a tech world, and we're missing specialists. Ah. In fact, I'm going to guess we probably don't have a lot of Raxar. Yeah, okay. So I'm going to need to start throwing some Raxar at this world fairly quickly. But that's fine. Probably what I want to do here... I'm just taking a second to see... So Grunner is suffering from sort of a shortfall of amenities. And then I need enforcers on Kephoth, but Kephoth... Yeah, this is a specialist problem. Okay, so this is definitely gonna... This gives me pause. I'm definitely gonna need to consider what's going on with Kirox's private stash and the other habitats. But for the time being, I can either stick them on Calsot and turn them into clerks, or I can stick them on... sorry, what was the other one? Was it Castor? Siluria? Grunner. We can stick them on Grunner and help with the amenities, and I prefer that option. So I definitely, this is something I'm going to need to remember over future playthroughs, but once the habitats start generating some more pops that I need to migrate, I want to make sure that I'm sending them to, I want to make sure that I'm sending them off to Kephoth to fill in the specialist jobs. Like, the thing is right now that all of these pops that are growing are not Raxarii, so it's fine. Like, we can just ship them off to other colonies, but I need people who can be specialists. Like, this could be a wonderful tech world if I just had scientists to work on it. We found a heavily damaged bipedal robot floating in space. We do not understand its energy source, but we may be able to retrieve information from its memory. Also, I should be
profit margins on this
building. Yep, we knew that was coming. Branch office shut down in Safe Harbor. Our branch office on Safe Harbor inside the enlightened kingdom of Khan Aramis was recently forced to close after mass arrests made by local authorities. It seems that the recent reduction in crime on the planet enabled their law enforcement agencies to focus their efforts on disrupting our operations. So that sucks for us. Let's try and find another tasty world. So we've got 4... 9, so that 9's probably going to be where I... So Gleaming Shell, but that's really far away as far as influence, so I might want to hold off on that. Well, that one's even further, so... Okay, the mooring is going to be our target. What does physics have for us today? Better archaeology? Why not? Nope. So if I had any plans of expanding my navy, like we better make that happen now. So against my better judgment, I'm going to recruit another admiral. It is tempting to go for logistics, but I'm going to go for the younger one with a higher experience gain. Okay, so first thing I want to double check here is the ideal form, right? This is best because of the extra lifespan. Okay, so I should be able to hit reinforce fleet. I'm just going to do this one at a time until the numbers get to where they need to be.
Boom! We built something.
And actually, I'll get an upgrade in as well.
This tech had better generate some revenue.
Where the body fails, science intervenes. Okay, we've got...
Construction complete!
Okay, getting closer to our target. This is why I'm doing it one at a time for my fleets, because if we suddenly find out that we're dealing with a very angry entity on the other side of that L gate, I want to be prepared. Lots of expensive techs now. Artificial moral codes will help me with crime, and that should actually help on a couple of those worlds. Alright. Also, I want to take a quick peek at what my envoys are up to. So, building the network in the Nar consciousness. Oh man, I dropped the ball on this big time. Okay, so definitely we acquire an asset immediately. And then things seem to be going pretty well for the... So, I mean, we've got a lot of intel on within their borders. I might be hurting myself doing this, but I want to try and take advantage of it now. So we can tempt or coerce operatives and other assets who would be of use to our intelligence operations, recruiting them for a price. Assigning an asset to this operation may skew the results towards their interests. Lost Soul. We have found a bipedal robot floating in space. Its faceplate is featureless, and its metal exterior is damaged. Preliminary scans indicate that it has residual power, but its power source is radically different from our own. Its internal circuitry may hold memories of its previous existence, but recharging it and translating its information will take time. Scan the robot or abandon it. I don't really see a huge advantage to just abandoning it, so let's see what you remember, Cosmic Traveler. Through diligent effort, we have found a way to recharge the robot's power supply and scan its memory banks. Sadly, the machine is deteriorated so badly that we cannot retrieve coherent information. We will consider a follow-up study, and we may search for others of its kind, but the fate of this mechanical castaway must remain a mystery.
Boom! I found something!
We have discovered an ancient alien starship lying half-buried in an asteroid crater. Sorry, I did say I was going to see what was going on here. So, fine on collective. Enable council veto power. Collective council should be granted the power to remove frivolous proposals from the resolution queue. Yeah, I'm okay with that. The more power to the council generally helps me. Esteemed oligarch Farglek. A decade ago, the Natraxian rum runners pledged to support the artisan troupe, and so you have. The time of your patronage is coming to an end, but we would be remiss not to ask, would you care to renew your subscription to the finest arts and crafts in the galaxy? Yes, we will. We need
Prospect analyzed.
Given the importance of unity, I'd argue that the artisan troupe has become even more important. Remind yourself that confidence is a slow and insidious killer. Confidence wavers. A group of auxiliary operatives in the Nar consciousness has begun shying away from their assigned tasks, citing a lack of confidence in their overall purpose. Spymaster Daklinex would typically handle such matters without bringing them to our attention, but even without them knowing any details, these operatives seem unusually well informed about Operation Acquire Asset and perhaps the spy network as a whole. Given that these auxiliaries are kept isolated from our more active and better informed agents, Daklinex suspects operatives are being fed information from an outside source. He also concedes that they may simply be highly perceptive individuals. Given these doubts and the threats posed to Operation Acquire Asset by each scenario, Spymaster Daklinex requests a directive on how to proceed. So let us see where these insights may lead. And our auxiliary operatives in the Nar consciousness have reacted with horror upon learning of the truth of their once intangible suspicions. Spymaster Daklinex revealed only a glimpse of the bigger picture to them, but it was sufficient to disrupt our supply lines. Our ability to subvert Naran encryption has been reduced for a time, which is a shame, but I kind of accept as a side effect. Actually, when I checked, it didn't seem to have all that big of a difference, to be honest.
Boom!
So
We built something.
this was
Another bleeding-edge technology
the world we
discovered.
were working towards. As expected, it is in fact the dragon. A shipboard lab with advanced archaeological equipment, including a vast database supplied by the Curator Order, where new discoveries can be easily cross-referenced. Okay. We're well into the territory of obscenely expensive tech. So proton launchers, because it's the only thing in even the 10... Or, okay, we've got a couple 20s. But again, just following on the pattern of the cheapest tech that I can get. Given the fact that we are starting to... So whenever I start seeing that sort of... those sort of techs, I sort of say, it's like, well, you know, at this point, maybe I should be... surely at this point I should be... Sorry. I should be closing the gap with them. But in this case, it seems like we're still waiting. Now, what's the deal with the? I guess I need a science ship. Crash site. We have discovered an ancient alien starship half buried in an asteroid crater. The science ship's exterior has an extensive sensory array and no weaponry. The exterior was not damaged in any way before it crashed. We can assume this catastrophe was a result of a fatal error caused by the crew. Create Seeds of Destruction archaeological site at YZ96498. As much as I'd like to follow up on that, I suspect... here we go. Opening the L cluster. Our scientists are now confident that our knowledge of the L gates and the technology behind them is sufficient to abort their maintenance cycle. If the attempt is successful, the L gate in the Zokorian black hole system should allow immediate access to the distant L cluster. As the maintenance cycle ends, any additional L gates in the galaxy will likely also become operational within a matter of years, as their self-correcting software readjusts. Still, this will give us a significant head start to explore the cluster without interference. Prepare the project.
Log updated.
So this is going to be absolutely ruinous to my empire size. but we're definitely going to go for it. Their hard work and experience, Admiral S875.1 Warform has developed new skills. Ask for it by name. Oh, sorry. Crash Starship. First Mate's report. Another log has been found and translated. First Mate Yathar speaking. Captain has been safely stowed in Utility Closet C. That bumbling fool is to blame for everything. I am in command now. Chief Engineer Zarbla is working on a subspace transmitter. Without one, I fear we'll never get rescued as we're too far off the corporate trade routes. Prevax lost another eye. Likely won't last the day. Curious. So many events. Okay, Kefroth. What's your deal? So I think I was funneling them off to Siluria, if I'm not mistaken. Nope, Grunner. Our spotters have begun ingratiating themselves with targets we've marked as potentially useful. Acknowledged. I kind of got off track for it, but I was actually watching The Americans again recently, and I don't know. I like its take on espionage. Like, I don't know how close it is to the real world, because it may shock you to know that I do not have firsthand experience of the intelligence community, let alone during the Cold War. But I don't know. It's neat to see the sorts of priority. Like, actually, I think the thing that interests me the most is that in that show, for the most part, the acquisition of information is not like the agent for the government running into a building and like assassinating the guards, or hacking in and getting the files directly. What they're doing is they are finding people's various weaknesses and letting American citizens do it, which strikes me as a bit more true. So just, having, I don't know, had that cultural moment, it kind of, just because it's the sort of stuff I've been watching recently, I sort of like some of the passages on acquiring assets, just because it sort of seems a little bit like, like The Americans. I don't know, I think it's a good show. Not very far in it, but... we've discovered an ancient alien starship lying half-buried in an asteroid crater. Glacial ice has inexorably spread across most of the ship, but we can easily access the airlock and search for any secrets hidden behind it. I'm a little curious about my food situation. Like, my expectation would have been that this world is enough, and it really seems like it's not. Here follows the latest newsletter for all our patrons. The Enclave has been busy the last couple of months. The halls are abuzz with a new kind of technology invented by a resident capable of transmitting sensations of smell to a user. This remarkable piece of machinery will surely change everything. In order to further develop this idea, we will require more donations. Yes, we will donate more, because that's going to be how I can
Construction complete.
Set up some more... Okay, we're only 11 influence. Well, actually, before I do that 11 influence, I should probably worry about the L cluster first. We'll keep one back, just in case. So the fact that it's going to take a science ship a while to research this is good, because that's going to give me the opportunity to kind of prepare and upgrade my various ships. Actually, it looks like the cruiser's the last
Anomaly found.
last
Hey,
piece of the puzzle.
Can
So
we monetize this?
let's do reinforce for this one. An unusually deliberate geometric configuration of minerals drifts through the debris belt by TBR-193 and is of possibly alien origin.
Planetary exploitation forecast complete.
Trying to think if there's a way that I can try and generate more alloys or consumer goods to try and get the economic power over the Ungrakva Royal States. I can try and just chew off more of its territory, but the drawback is that expands my empire size. What I'm really trying to do is make them a subsidiary. All right. I'm assuming this is, yeah, more of the same. Space storm Ribe arrives. Massive subspace disturbances have erupted in systems across the galaxy. Early reports indicate that nearly 50% of the systems in the galaxy have been affected by this unprecedented phenomenon, which appears to be a byproduct of thousands of years of heavy hyperspace travel by civilizations, both past and present. Roka Fanboy, 28th of their name. Thank you. Which, if you're looking at mine, it's this one here. But yeah, this is definitely the minnow swallowing the whale. I'm playing my first criminal enterprise. Welcome. This save was started before the new patch, so the majority of this playthrough has actually been trying to recover from having like a minus 50 consumer good debt and I think like minus 100, 200 energy. Anyway, I was getting a bunch of a bunch of warnings saying that I was about to go bankrupt in about 11 months. So we got through it. Also, I would have thought that I covered my rare crystals, but apparently I haven't, so we'll add another 2 to that trade. Scientists are confident that this galactic space storm will dissipate by itself within a period of 5 to 10 years. Until that happens, the storm will play havoc with sublight engines, shield generators, and sensor systems in those systems affected by it. The galactic community has officially named this storm either Ribe or Reba, and issued a general travel advisory. This too shall pass. I don't know if it's going to affect us in time for the... for opening the L gate.
Ship status cutting edge.
So the mooring, it's going to cost me 110. I really, really do want to spend the influence, but again, we'll wait to see what happens with the. We'll wait to see what happens with the L gate, and then we'll decide whether or not I want to spend that influence on opening new criminal enterprises. Narrowing the field, a short list of targets has been drawn up. Those operatives who are no longer tasked with surveillance will provide cover for the others. Good. In Gilded Cage, the mineral construct is, for lack of a better term, a room. Made out of the same type of minerals in common use in the next Natraxian rum runners, the construct is a hollow icosahedron. Icosidodecahedron, I think. Resonance scans indicate that it is mostly hollow and was likely inhabited at some point in time. Unlike this pristine exterior, the interior is in complete disarray, possibly the result of an intentional act of sabotage. Lack of influence seems to be the name of the game. Indeed. Science Officer Klenderax reports that this makes it difficult to learn anything of value from the construct's insides, but stresses that the engineering techniques involved in creating the outer shell, eminently capable of withstanding the stresses of deep space, must have been tremendously advanced. I'm actually particularly in the trouble that this faction's rather good at putting enforcers on the planets that are most profitable to me and closing the the bases. So for a long time, I've been waiting to vassalize the Loxungrak of our royal state. Well, not vassalize, but turn them into a subsidiary status. But unfortunately, the window sort of closed on me for that because they ceased to be an inferior power. I still outdo them militarily, but economically and technologically, they're holding their own. And of course, because of my current empire size, I have a plus 53% penalty to my science, and my primary population is just not growing fast enough. So I need to try and figure out some ways of making, trying to just organize my empire a little bit better in terms of, getting that science built up so that I can finally eclipse the Loxungrak and turn my rival into a franchise. All right, where were we? The Irid Fix back. Okay. I had some stuff that I wanted it to do, but honestly, at this point, I think I will recruit another scientist. Ooh, genius. Okay. So I'll do automatic surveying for this one, but one of my other science ships, this one, I'm going to find my second biggest research planet. Wow, that is quite the drop-off. Okay, so I guess Dolok Habitat? I guess the real question there is, where's the science coming from? Oh, no, Nadal is the better one. Okay. Actually, that would make sense, because that was one of the ones that the bad guys used to have. See the edicts, sure. I mean, I'm still reforming from a bit of a hiatus on the from Stellaris. I mean, I've played it for a while since that long break, so I'm not necessarily someone you'd want to emulate. I tend to play the game a little bit like a macro scale RPG. But right now I've got education and recycling campaign because it's just so ridiculously inexpensive, and I'm making more energy credits than I know what to do with. Research subsidies is the one that I have active. Oh, hang on. They've totally changed the way this works. My apologies. It used to be that I could only, I'd have a number of edicts to go, but it seems that I actually need to worry about... Jesus. Okay. Edicts fund is a separate and static pool of unity for edicts upkeep. If the upkeep exceeds the sign of the fund, regular unity will also be used. Interesting. But I guess this is the consequence of having my empire side. No? Doesn't say anything about edicts. So why are my edicts so expensive all of a sudden? Huh. Okay, I will admit, I'm actually not 100% sure how this works in the new patch. I'll work that out for myself in future, but I'm not changing it. Basically, I wanted research subsidies. At the time, there would be a big penalty for having more than one edict. So I went for research subsidies essentially because that was going to be how I could get an edge over my technologically superior neighbors. We fought them to a point now where we were actually able to take territory from them. So the old border used to be at Siluri, I believe. So we've been able to beat them in a war, and it's really just a question here about trying to subsidize or turn them into a subsidiary. I don't want to subsidize them, obviously. Oh, that could... Okay. That's good to know. The Tecarus link has stopped guaranteeing the independence of the Nar consciousness. This may represent an opportunity for us. This is definitely somebody who I would consider turning into subsidiary, but I currently have a defensive pact with them. And so breaking that defensive pact would impose sort of a treaty period. And I think I'm served well enough by having them as a research partner and a defender. or like in a defensive alliance. Aggression I'll reserve for the Lox Ungrak. Okay. Our deep cover operatives have stepped up their surveillance on potential targets. Mind you, that doesn't stop me from spying on my neighbor, obviously. Okay, let's go back. Caster is ready for an upgrade. I was probably ready before and I just didn't pay attention. And I forgot. Yes, I actually don't have a planet to turn into a Gaia world. That's a shame. Defensive Pact are worth it even if they give you a -1 on influence gain. So this is a... I mean, to a certain extent, I guess you can look at the history of the world this way. So it's important to remember that when I started this, the Lox Ungrak Va royal states were very much a threat to my empire. They were technologically superior. They had a stronger navy. And the Nar consciousness, I don't know if they were an advanced start, but they were more powerful than me. And so effectively, I needed to find a way of protecting myself from this this fairly overwhelming enemy. So in this particular case here, the defensive pact was worth it, and even with the -1 influence, because of the sort of the buffer that it gave me. Now, as it happens, these two wound up going to war, and these guys kind of got beaten up quite a bit. So, but what it did, you can never, like, the measure of defensive pact sometimes is through an event not happening, right? So if you've got a very strong neighbor that doesn't attack you during your, during the existence of the defensive pact, your thought will sometimes be, oh, it's a very good thing that I created this disincentive for them to attack. But because Stellaris is a game where so much of the time it's sort of the, like, oh, what did I come upstairs to do again? Like, you just have so many things on your plate that you forget why you did certain things. Oftentimes you're like, well, what's the point of this defensive pact? It's like nobody's attacking me. And of course, sometimes it's just simply that you have the opportunity to pursue other interests because somebody's got your back. So in this situation here, I wouldn't... So I put it to you this way. If I had neutral relations with the Nar consciousness, I would not necessarily pursue a defensive pact with them because they are pathetic strength. I don't know if they count overall as inferior. They do. So in this situation here, I'd probably want to offer them subsidiary status and just turn them into a puppet. But at the moment, because I've got friendly relationships with them, and because the friendly relationships and the various trade and whatnot has actually given me access to more of their, like, more intelligence, as I'm still building up my spy network, there's sort of ancillary benefits to maintaining the relationship with them. At some point, I may consider breaking the defensive alliance and turning them into a subsidiary, but that's going to be a plan that requires me to run through the period with the treaty. Like, there's going to be a treaty that stops me from attacking them before I can try and turn them into a subsidiary. I'm also going to have to assume that the neighboring powers don't vassalize them first, which is not guaranteed. And then, of course, I'm going to have to make sure that my attention isn't going to be spent on other things. And, of course, coming up, we have the L Gate. And then, of course, my priority is to remove my rival first. So that's a very, very long way of saying it depends. But another reason why I might want a defensive alliance here would just simply be that it will give me another opportunity to put some criminal enterprises in their territory as well. With the Enlightened Kingdom of Khan Eremus, that's what I've been working on so far, but you'll notice that they've invested a lot on enforcers. So this 23, that's going to be going away pretty soon. They're going to close down the subsidiary, and it costs a lot of influence to open those, whereas here it's relatively cheap. So generally my feeling on defensive pacts, beyond just this, the question of how do you stop your strong neighbors from causing trouble for you? I try to consider some of the secondary benefits, and generally corporations benefit from not having a lot of wars going on. And so defensive pacts can be useful to just make sure that your businesses don't get plundered. Unusual fluctuations in space-time have been detected in the vicinity of TD 163089. Further analysis is advised. Although, maybe I should just stress, like, again, that's very much kind of a vestigial defensive pact. It's beneficial for me to maintain it as opposed to remove it at the moment. But that's not guaranteed moving forward. It's a little bit... I was talking about intellectual property earlier in the stream, and one of the ways I described the current regime is to say... Like, no, if we were inventing a set of IP rules from scratch today, nobody would pick the system that we currently have. But because we have the current system that we do, we accept this second best because essentially our job now is to reform as opposed to rewrite. And it's a similar idea in terms of the balance of power in this little branch of the galaxy. Disturbing vision. 3 nights ago, Chief Archaeologist Koldrax reported having a disturbing vision and has been shut away in their quarters until now. They believe the source to be whatever is down there with us. Ominous. I was not expecting that turn. So I'm a little curious what happens to my Gaia worlds in 37 seconds when the habitability gets hit. Oh, hello. The Mirovandia Imperial Sons have claimed Subra. So where's Subra?
Research complete. We did it.
Sleeping Crystal Nest. The trapped asteroid is in fact a crystalline being's nest. It is good that we didn't keep digging, for it seems like we agitated the creature hibernating inside. If we do nothing for a while and study it from afar, it should settle down. Oh, interesting. So, okay.
Acquired.
This explains it. So the reason why I wasn't able to get the crystals was because, yeah, they went away. All right, that sucks. But at least now I know why I'm missing it. All right, the Imperial Sons. What's your deal? So they count as equivalent. They are also part of the Cosmic Treaty Organization, though. So chances are, if they start something, the Confederation of Zaco is coming with. So this is kind of an example of how I think of things like defensive pact. So one thing that the current defensive pact is serving is if I wanted to vassalize the Elaminid concern, I would be able to move through the Nar consciousness. Now, the Elaminid concern is in a defensive pact with the Tecaris link, so Tecaris is going to make sure that these my rival corporation stays protected. Now, one thing that would be an advantage to having these guys as a subsidiary would be that could be sort of a staging ground for an invasion of the Confederation of Zaco. Likewise, I could go through the Nar consciousness to take them out as well. What I'm mostly concerned about here would be Shorax, because it does seem like the Mirovandia Imperial Sons want to start something. I think my best bet here will be to reinforce the star base. It's going to be inconvenient if we trigger the L gate and they invade, but we do have roughly even strength, so I'm mildly confident that they're not going to mess around with us. I want to keep an eye on it though, because if they're building claims, I want to keep an eye on it. Okay, Caster, we've got unemployment. Yeah, these are intelligent. So this is one of the ones I want to put on the tech world if I can. Was that Siluria? No. Kephoth. What? Do you mean to tell me I put... Okay. First thing I want to do is check my species. So intelligent desert preference. Sorry, I'm losing track of... Okay, so these are indentured servitude. Am I going nuts? Yeah, so all of my intelligent species should be taking specialist jobs if they're available. Chronic clone, chattel slavery, that's fine. I don't know why Mirovandia are... Oh, right, because they're natural engineers, of course. New Bale are chattel slavery. Raxar are the one citizenship. In fact, yeah, they have decadent lifestyle. Ronzar should be indentured servitude. Robots are regular servitude. Is there an alternative? No. Yeah, so I mean, that's all the way it should be. So why is it that you're unemployed? Oh, like, this is just unforgivable. Like, this is the sort of stuff... Like, this absolutely should be working in a... in a lab, if I can... Well, I'm gonna do a little fancy footwork here. I'm gonna take a couple of Raxar. Yeah, I know. We'll just leave that. We'll leave that empty on Kirox's private stash, and we'll just have one job to be filled. That seems to work as well as anything. The reason why I wanted to do this, so first of all, I'm curious. Yeah, so they wound up as executives. So my hope here is that this is going to start pushing ahead. This is going to start pushing the growth rate for the Raxar. This used to not be a Gaia world. So yeah, hopefully the demographics start smoothing out there. Okay. Sorry, that took longer than I needed. Science. By infusing armor plating with crystalline matter, we are able to further increase the durability of our ship's protective hulls. Everything's so expensive. Durasteel armor probably makes the most sense. City district housing is okay as well, but for... it's almost a year difference. I don't know. Oh, hang on. No, we got that through other means. Never mind. Sorry. We got a couple people here. More races, more tedium. This is why I like synth. Yes, it is so much easier to just stick everyone together. I will admit it's actually been kind of neat to try and manage all of the various talents, but I have run into those situations where people who should be in labs wind up working fields, and I've never really quite figured out if there's a way to move workers up to specialists. That just kind of seems to happen automatically when the job becomes available, and then you kind of don't have social mobility afterwards. Which, in fairness, you know, we're former bootleggers, so that's a thing, I suppose. And you've had this problem a couple times. Prioritizing higher level jobs seem to fix it. Oh, that's right. Yeah, you can do that. Let's give that a shot. That's a really good observation. I've used that at the same level before, but you're right. There's no reason to say that couldn't happen. It is Kafoth, right? Yes, that's my tech world. So if we go, yep, that did it. Cool. In fact, it makes me want to build another research lab. So yeah, I guess I mean, it's kind of funny, right? I'm currently waiting for a truce to end. Those always seem eternal. Yes, I mean, now you kind of know why I'm not breaking this defensive pact. I mean, it makes sense, right? Because if you could just start a war immediately after ending the old one, like, you just take your weakened enemy. You've already shown you can, like, bulldoze them, so why not just do it again, right? But it's tedious, right? Because I had the opportunity to turn these guys into a subsidiary, and then they managed to get, I think it was economic parity. Maybe not parity, but they're at least equal. And clearly that doesn't work in my favor. Oh, do I have unemployment again? What's going on here? The Wraith, a spectral entity, has been detected by our sensors. It seems to be roaming from system to system, destroying matter around itself indiscriminately. Early observations suggest its composition and manipulation of light may make it extremely difficult to target. But one thing that we have learned, exploring the galaxy, is that even light itself can be bent and broken. We only need to figure out how.
Evading hostiles!
Yeah, I know exactly. I mean, there can be some satisfaction, like personal satisfaction, when you just like pull out a real, like, just an unexpected win. But it's it's a tricky one, simply because, like, clearly if your enemy tries to do something like really awful to you, it feels a bit weird to like. So actually, this is a great example. The Lox Ungrak Va Royal States. So this is the first time I played a criminal enterprise. So there's a casus belli, which basically, I can't remember exactly what it's like, expropriate resources or whatever. Anyways, like, basically they rip up all of your corporate branches. And it turns out that if you can stalemate them, what happens is you lose all of the branches, but you're compensated. If they get to enforce their demands, they just destroy that. Like, I think they just get an amount. Actually, I can probably look it up in the wiki, but I'm already kind of going over time. So, like, for that one, we were actually able to pull off the status quo, which I felt really great about, but I didn't know what the status quo result was, and it just wound up being a bunch of money. But, like, even though it was a couple thousand in terms of energy credits, like, one of my corporate offices was producing something like in at least 100. I think it might have even gotten up into like multiple hundreds. It was such a ridiculously profitable run. So, like, the fact that they were able to just remove it for such a long period of time was certainly not compensating me for the value of what I'd lost. So, similar to you, right? Like, we definitely pulled a win out from what we were, what we thought would happen. But the reward ultimately was like, you get some money instead of nothing. And then, as you say, like, the treaty or the truce winds up. Well, I guess actually if they attack you, I can't remember if you are also affected by the truce. I've never tried, but anyways. The Enigmatic Cache departs. It appears as though the Enigmatic Cache is now done with its scan of Castor Prime and is seeking another target planet within our borders. A relief for the citizens of Castor Prime, or a shame? Okay. So, navigating with the science ship. I'm assuming it's going to destroy the mining station, but I don't want to delay the investigation of the black hole, or not the black hole, the L-gate.
This tech had better generate some revenue.
This is going to be one of these situations. Oh, this is a new ball, actually. Let's put them on the Agra world. Under normal circumstances, what I would do is I'd actually start taking some of the people off of these planets. So, like, notice here for my workers, I'm using slave pops. What I want to start doing is putting some of the Raxar on the Gaia worlds, but in this particular case, I've got an Agra world which can benefit from my... I mean, it is kind of cruel what I did to them. I basically resurrected them so I could turn them into slaves, but they're really good at farming, so...
Resource scan complete.
It is circumstance that dictates what is moral. Define the circumstance, and ethics is like clay in your hands. So I'll just get out of this so we don't have to hear the booming. Alright. Again, trying to make myself seem more technically advanced than I am. So going for whatever cheap tech I can get. Let's do refit standards because I am going to be doing some upgrades soon. Speaking of, how's my starbase handling that? Pretty much done. Okay, we'll start by upgrading new ship. Then we will do reinforce. Following that, we will upgrade the Void Skulkers, then we'll reinforce. I'm really trying to make my peace with the fleet manager.
Attack.
Yeah, we kind of thought that was going to happen. We have a...
Starbase lost.
Oh, wow! I did not realize it actually takes out starbases. Okay, that's shockingly inconvenient. Especially because that might be moving on to Jinkath. As the operation nears its conclusion, Spymaster Toxodal has moved on to secure our new asset within the enlightened kingdom of Con Aramis. Our remaining operatives are poised to facilitate any cover she may need. Commence operation. And despite recent skill improvements owing to accumulated experience, Admiral Maxtarok appears to be approaching the limits of his abilities. And Spymaster Toxodal reports from the enlightened kingdom of Con Aramis. A successful execution so far. We have lured an underappreciated member of the Con Araman citizenry, whose attitude and contacts among the lower rungs of society are sure to aid our operations in various ways. So we want at least one more of those. I mean, we're doing okay for intel right now, but let's just get another acquire asset done. Not quite. I don't think I'll dedicate the resource, so we'll just launch that. We have alarming news, Raxar friends. Contact with our colony on New Baldorak seems to have been lost. They no longer respond to any of our satellite transmissions, and we fear the worst. Perhaps the aliens who bombarded our original homeworld have returned to finish the job. Please send a ship to investigate. We shall dispatch a ship at once.
Log updated.
Excellent. Hopefully it's just a faulty transmitter. Alright. We may not be able to access it depending on where it is. Oh, nope, that's not a problem. I will wait till the L gate is done. This is actually going to be kind of inconvenient if I have to move my ships through here, but... Temporal Prism. Our analysis of the temporal fluctuations in the Phaenov system have revealed something remarkable. A massive prism floating in space. Rather than light, the prism reflects time. Depending on the angle of incidence, the crew of the ISS Laura Nergal report experiencing time at different rates. Biometric scans indicate that some have aged rapidly, while others are days, even years younger than they should be. While our study of the prism has certainly deepened our understanding of the nature and properties of time, its origin and purpose remain a mystery. Do I actually get to take advantage of that science? Hell no. Okay. Against my better judgment, I'm gonna peek this construction ship in.
Ships upgraded.
Okay, that's good news. I despise the fact that it's called new ship, but I haven't been I haven't changed it. Didn't I already give it instructions? What's going on here? Okay, that's fine. So. You get an upgrade. They're already reinforcing. Okay, I'll leave the rest of it on its own. A short list of targets have been drawn up. Those operatives who are no longer tasked with surveillance will provide cover for the others. And where's my construction ship? Okay, this one should be a scaredy cat. This one should be moving to... It's mostly just so I can get an eye on where this thing's moving. Kind of keep it at the edge of the system. Eventually I'd like to reclaim it, but I don't think that's going to be happening for a while. Ah, come on! Go away! I'm probably going to have to wait. I think I'm just going to wait a while before trying to restore the claim, because it's going to, like... Unless it turns around, like, I'm going to have to deal with this at some point. Actually, you know what? The curators might be able to give me some insight. I suspect the answer is going to be, you're going to need to throw everything at it if I can handle it at all. Tell us about the mystery... Sorry. We possess detailed star charts of the entire galaxy gathered by explorers from 100 different races. Perhaps they would be of interest to you. Well, you know what? They'd be really interesting, but I know this game doesn't let me buy maps from the Curator Order. It's the one case where the narrative that they're trying to write doesn't actually line up with the mechanics of the game, because I'm assuming most of you would find it very useful to sort of have a map to know, like, even if you could just see all the different... the links for the hyperspace lanes, you could probably try and find your choke points and figure out what your expansion might look like. But anyways, tell us about the mysteries of the universe. Wait a minute. I can't even remember what this is called. This is the Spectre. I guess it's the Wraith then? These are exceedingly powerful entities. Sorry, there are exceedingly powerful entities lurking within certain star systems in our galaxy. At great cost in both lives and resources, Curator agents have painstakingly gathered knowledge that should make these beings easier to deal with the next time you encounter them. Tell us about the Wraith. Spectral Wraiths are disturbing creatures, if they are creatures at all. We consider them a rare and extraordinarily efficient natural disaster. What do you know about these disasters? They appear to be illusions of light, but when you get close, it quickly grows apparent that they are far from illusory. Paradoxically, it is that in that appearance lies the key to their defeat. Their relationship with the visible spectrum of light is their strength, but it diminishes when they approach a light source of similar frequency. Pay close attention to the color of the wraith. What about red wraiths? Red wraiths have a frequency of 450 terahertz. Their light is synchronized with that of a Class M star. Their ability to avoid conventional weaponry is weakened in systems with red dwarfs. So I should probably see what kind I'm dealing with. I think it's red. Unless it changes. Yep. So if they go to Iolam, we're okay, but that means we lose two bases in the meantime. How would our current fleet fare against it in battle? Yours is a mighty fleet comparable to some of the greatest armadas recorded in the annals of the Curator Order. Victory is certainly within your reach. Alright, I was not expecting that. Again, I don't necessarily want to throw it at the Spectre quite now. One, because it's not in the ideal location, but number two, because I want to keep my fleet ready for whatever's coming out of the L gate if something nasty happens. Speaking of...
complete.
No! Ah! The Grey Tempest. Our technicians managed to lift the lockdown from the L gate near the Zikorian black hole, but as soon as a permanent link was established to the L cluster, a massive incoming subspace surge was detected. We were able to restrict this potential evasion force using our gate while still retaining access for ourselves. Unfortunately, the incoming surge was diverted to the other L gates in the galaxy. Strange vessels consisting of nanites are pouring through these now fully active gates, attacking everything in sight. All attempts to communicate with these machines have failed. In the wake of their passage through the L gates, we have detected a repeating subspace transmission emanating from the L cluster. Put the message on screen. Decoding repeating automated subspace transmission. Establishing translation matrix. Alert. Message is heavily corrupted. Attempting reconstruction of message fragments. 3 message fragments partially recovered. Fragment 1. Decoding Fragment 1. We are the unintelligible architects of the Galactic Gateway Network. If you are receiving this transmission, then we can only unintelligible that we are not too late. Perhaps one of our message boys somehow slipped past the unintelligible and escaped the cluster before it was closed off. Do not, repeat, do not restore access to the dormant gateway in our star cluster. Under no circumstances must a stable connection be formed between the unintelligible and the galaxy at large. For the sake of all civilization, our cluster has to remain under permanent quarantine. Fragment 2. In an act that will inevitably doom our civilization, we have deliberately isolated our home cluster to prevent the spread of the Nar-D-Shav, the Grey Tempest. These self-replicating nanomachines were instrumental in the construction of our gateway network. But when the unintelligible had concluded, we found that they would no longer accept our commands. Through a hidden back door, our unintelligible managed to recall the machines to our home cluster, but this security hole has since been plugged. When they started harvesting our planets for materials, we knew it was only a matter of time before... Fragment 3. The main, unintelligible, facility is the key. All of their, unintelligible, are routed through its subspace array, and without it they cannot function. Unfortunately, all of our attempts to disable it have failed, and we can no longer muster the forces to unintelligible another assault. If the quarantine of our cluster has failed, you must destroy this facility. As long as it remains unintelligible, the Grey Tempest will continue to surge unabated throughout the galaxy. We are truly sorry for unleashing this horror. In our hubris, we... And on that note, we're done for today. About half an hour over. So, if I wanted to fight with these guys, it's we're going to be waiting a while on that. So the aim was to try and claim the L gate for myself. I still potentially have that option, but the biggest problem now is that I've got this wraith which is going to be tearing through my territory before I'm able to deal with the Grey Tempest. So to be honest, if I lose everything here, I'm fine. Once I lose Jinkath, then I'm mad. When I see other potential sources for the L gate, so we've got this. It's not going to show me. So all right. So 2 L gates. These guys are in real trouble. The Techaris link would be kind of exciting. I don't have very good intel on the other parts of the galaxy, but by and large, we're actually pretty insulated from the consequences of our actions. It's just everybody else that needs to deal with it. Yeah, if they run into the Techaris link, we'll be fine. But really, what I want to try and do is I want to try and sneak a construction ship through if I can, so that I can ninja the base. Actually, there's one thing that I can get done. We'll move the science ship. I'll bring the oh, do I have to? Okay, so I guess I need to put this thing to no. This might get bad. We'll take a quick
Our
peek.
science ship is under attack.
Hey, it made it. Oh, maybe it didn't. Okay, so it's 35k. Yeah, I absolutely have no interest in taking that on yet. I guess the good news is that it's 35k, but it's split over 6 ships. So we do sort of have the means of like picking it apart with our numbers. But I'm gonna need to think about the smart way for me to try and take this on. Essentially, the advantage to opening the L gate here is that it makes everyone else hurt, and it's relatively minor for me. But clearly, I need to get my fleets in much better shape before I try and claim that territory for myself. All of this, however, will be dealt with in the next stream. So thank you, all of you. There's definitely a few new faces here, so thank you for the follows. Thank you for hanging out in the chat. I normally play Stellaris or just generally strategy games on Mondays. I usually stream Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, so I am doing another strategy game, but not a Paradox one on Wednesdays. Brace Yourself Games has very kindly given me keys for both Industries of Titan and Phantom Brigade. Now, unless Industries of Titan gets a update, and it might, unless Industries of Titan gets an update, we'll be doing Phantom Brigade, which is a sort of cinematic turn-based tactics game. It's really great if you haven't checked it out. And Friday has been for Darkest Dungeon. Tomorrow there will be a pre-recorded Elder Scrolls episode, but those aren't really the same as my stream. So if you're all just here for Stellaris, I'll be back in a week if I'm the best available, which that's usually what brings people here. There's nobody better on. But yeah, if you're just here for Stellaris, I try to start roughly between 7 and 8 Eastern Time. For those of you who just like the sound of my voice and don't really care what I'm playing, the next thing I'm doing is tomorrow, 7, but it's pre-recorded. If you like the interaction, then the next one is Wednesday. But let's try and find somebody to host for the evening before I sign off. Yeah, no problem. Temp Mind, Rolf, Roka Fanboy. I'm sure there's a few others. Lurk. I tend to notice that. Definitely it's a good channel for lurking, so I never like sort of calling people out just for for being here. So needless to say, I don't like taking it for granted, but definitely thank you all for hanging out. Johnny Big Time is actually streaming. I really like Johnny, and he's doing The Outer Worlds. So Johnny is definitely has a lot more energy than me. He's got a great sense of humor. Former chef, now I think sells doors. But he's been having a lot of fun with Outer Worlds. He really likes the Fallout style games, so he is a ton of fun to watch, and he he's playing something that's like really in his element. So I know it's a bit different from Stellaris. Obviously, if you want to check out more Stellaris, you can just click the game, and it will direct you to whatever's available. But I highly recommend you stick around for Johnny because he's a good guy, and I quite like watching him. He might be wrapping up fairly soon, but I want to host him nonetheless. So I'll see you all in a week at the most, I guess. See you then. Bye.